Plat Select Board, Monday, September 24th, 2018. It is 6:05. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
I was wondering about adding the senior center request for proposals for senior center countertop.
Okay. We'll just add that on later, see how time goes.
Okay.
The next item is KR Properties. The Select Board over a few weeks have discussed it, and if I'm not, you want to excuse yourself? Yes. If I'm not mistaken, so Frank and Fritz interacted either directly or indirectly with you guys. Directly. And it sounded like there was an agreement. And I'm sort of under the impression that either you want to discuss the agreement and then we're prepared with your recommendation would sign the agreement. Is that as you see it?
Yeah.
You want to kind of give us a little summary or something?
Well, yeah, I can.
I mean, it's open, it's not private anymore, right?
Well, it's still a legal matter, but I mean, until everything is signed. But there were conditions within the Planning Commission's decision that KR Properties questioned. And so they requested that we meet with them and discuss it to try to see if we can come up with an agreement. And I think we came up with a pretty good compromise. There were compromises. There were some things that were stated. We did talk with a couple of the members of the Planning Commission, and they thought that once they reread their decision, they could see how it might be interpreted differently than what they really meant on portions of it. So, so basically, what we're trying to do is be able to keep the forest a forest and keep the wildlife corridor there, and still allow the Krasnows to have use of their forest and their wildlife corridor, you know, some recreational use, and being able to manage the forest that's there. That's the main bones of it right there. And in our agreement, there was, like I said, there were other things that were stated, but I think there was one lot that had two building envelopes, and that was kind of stated that only one could be used, and it stated which one, and they wanted the choice of either building envelope on that particular lot. So I've looked at the last the stipulation order that we're looking at with Liam, and I think we've come up with the proper or the agreed upon conclusions. And there's also adjustments to the open space agreement, which is now called the open land and.
I think open space agreement is still the open space. Yeah.
The map changed, the name.
Okay,
Yeah.
the map changed, okay. So the open space agreement was changed slightly for the wildlife corridor, the east-west wildlife corridor.
We don't have a copy of this, right?
It wasn't in the packet. I thought, email it out to the select board last week.
Yeah, I got a copy of it, but I didn't get a clean version.
Okay.
When I looked at it, there were two red line versions
Okay,
of the order, and there was a red line version of the, or it might have been close to a finished version of the open space agreement. So the open space agreement was pretty much done, but the stipulation order agreement was, I mean, I understood it, but it was still redlined.
okay.
Those are, I got clean version.
Yeah, I mean, I have a clean version, I can print it out if the select board would like that. For some reason, I thought you had it, but I guess
But we're
not.
being asked to sign it, which
Right.
is fine, but we're relying on Fritz and Frank, which is still fine.
Yeah,
But I for one haven't read it.
okay.
I mean, what do you think? I mean, do you recommend we approve this, or do you want the board to read it, or?
I mean, me and Fritz and the Krasnows went over pretty much every little detail on this.
And we talked about it.
And further with Dean.
Yeah, and in the inkling I've got from Fritz last time we met, he said that we had come up with a conclusion, or come up with an agreement, but we had to finalize it. So I feel that he was in favor of this version. So,
So I thought as we were leaving.
right, so that's, and I'm for, sending this off to the lawyer to submit it.
Oh,
However, it's
sent
gotta
it, it's
be-
went to the lawyer though, hasn't it?
It did, yeah. I sent it to Joe last week, and he has pretty much signed off on it. I'm not sure that the Krasnow's attorney has signed off on it, so you might allow for the attorneys to make minor legal tweaks, but in concept, I think it's,
Yeah,
We instructed our attorney to sign off on the ones that you prepared.
okay.
So, and he was in connection with Joe. And Joe had sent him the ones that
Okay.
he sent it to us verbatim. We signed off on it, told him to tell Joe that and to tell you.
Okay.
So I don't know.
But you don't have a final copy, and we don't have a final
Oh, I have a
copy.
final copy in an email. I don't have it in, I have a final clean copy in emails. I don't have
right,
a,
I don't have.
A hard copy with
written
me.
copy.
Yeah, I can
I know
print it
Dean
out
has one,
before the end of the
so-
night if
I mean,
you,
what's your suggestion, Frank? I mean, you want to make a motion? Are you recommending we support it? And-
I recommend that it's supported, yes.
Do we all sign it, or is one person?
the order is actually signed by the attorneys. It's a form.
That's what I was saying, I have to go back to the
Yeah,
attorneys. I
but
mean, we would approve that the attorney
Right.
Okay. that-
submit this to the court.
Right, but then the open space agreement is signed by select board, or select board chair.
Are these two separate approvals then, or?
Yes,
Yes, there's a stipulation order, and then there is an open space agreement.
So do you want to make a couple of motions then? Is there a document number?
Well, that's why I was hoping we'd have a copy of it, so I could,
it's,
because I think all I've
me
got
print it
is, all I've got is some older versions.
Okay,
I carry everything with me, but most of mine are the older versions.
End up outside.
Yeah, there's been a few changes in the last few days that, commas here.
Right, like I said, I read his
You know.
red lined one, but I haven't
Yeah.
read, that was last week, he sent it to me, I haven't seen,
Misspellings.
yeah, I
There's a
haven't
few
seen
things.
anything this week,
A lot of back and forth that
right?
was sort of wacky, but didn't change any of the intent of anything.
Right. Just trying to remember the day that he actually.
I never, I thought we were going to see it tonight.
Yeah, it was on
What's the date?
Friday that they sent the last
Yeah, I don't have it.
That's nothing wrong
You got everybody? I missed.
No, this was just me and Fritz from,
I know.
and Joe and Dean.
How many pages is it? A long document or?
Well, this is the stipulation. This is an older version, but the stipulation's 2.5 pages, but this open space agreement is like 8 or 9 pages. So it's almost 9 pages long. I know there's,
A lot of wear.
I know these are, like I said, I know these are old, and it just took some things that say should, and they were changed to shall, and I mean, there were little things.
Lawyers corrections.
Yes.
Call them.
Right,
You will receive the bill.
yeah. But they were small corrections, but they were grammatical.
Right.
Pretty much.
Although all used in previous approved open space agreements.
So this is this, okay, so this is the, okay, cool. So this one is the stipulation that we would vote on and authorize our attorney to sign. And there's a reference number, docket number, everything.
Yeah,
So how about it?
right, so this would be a motion for our attorney to submit the proposed stipulation dismissal order, dismissal and order for docket number 41-4-18 VTEC. VTEC for the Krasnow properties.
Okay. Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
Any comments anybody has?
I'm in favor. I'm in favor.
Oh, you're in favor. I thought you wanted a favor. You're in favor. Okay, there's no comments. So we have a motion to approve this docket number. No more questions? Everybody ready to vote?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So the second one is the open space agreement.
Right.
I'm not familiar. Who, does planning put this together?
Right. It's part of the planning commission, it's part of their site plan approval and their PRD approval. They always try to get, in order to keep our wildlife corridors and the forest around the town, they always try to get some kind of open space agreement so that we still have it and we keep Charlotte looking the way it does.
And fields.
And our forests and our fields, making sure we have our agricultural uses to remain with what little we have left.
So this, like just reading it, somewhat standard terminology, I take it.
Yeah, it's all pretty standard. They're usually, there's some calculation, I don't know what it is, of what they try to do, but it's usually based on the proposal. So each one is unique. So every proposal that comes in is a little different.
And what's the percent?
50% of the market.
50% of the land has to be designated open space. It's 88 acres, so.
In this case, some of it's open field, some of it's forested, and some of it's wildlife corridors.
And the main thing, right, and the main thing with this is to make sure that the forest stays healthy. And, you know, and allows them to use the other fields and stuff and that they stay open, and they've already agreed to only have 9 places on this particular parcel, so that's another.
So there's 9, it's a 9-lot subdivision. Of which, a total, of which about, you're saying 50% of the land is open space per the agreements you guys have reached. Okay. And this has been reviewed by everybody, the players and the attorneys. So I see that they're looking for a single signature from the board and a single signature from KR Properties. And I guess we'll date it at the time we approve it. So you want to make a motion on this, Frank?
Yeah, I can, to make a motion to, have the chair sign the open space agreement with KR Properties.
You can almost read the, between KR Properties.
KR Properties in the town of Charlotte. I mean, it is, I mean, I could go down through and talk about the whole,
Or,
where it is. It's on the corner of 1 Mile Road and Mount Fowler Road.
I'll second that.
okay. So this does not have an agreement number per se. Okay, so it's,
Well, this is the open space agreement as modified. That
Or
was
this-
that was approved by the planning commission.
You could say in association with the subdivision that was approved.
Right. So the open space agreement in association with the subdivision that was approved, and what was the subdivision number here?
oh,
Okay, thank you. PC 17168,
there it is, yeah. Piece.
SD. Oh, we know what it's going to, a little clearer.
Okay, so you've got the motion. Today's date, I would
Yep,
say
today.
9/24. Do you second this, Gary?
Yes, I did.
Anybody have any questions on this motion?
No?
Prepared to vote? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So this probably has to be notarized.
Yes, I saw it did.
So want me to, I can do this tomorrow, or sign and notarize? Okay. So I think guys, sounds like after, how many months you've been working on this?
How many years?
It's at 36,
36 months.
Okay.
Years.
36 in process with the town, 48 among us.
Yeah.
Took me a year to get up to get the plan.
To get it exactly the way we all agreed on it, yeah.
Good for you.
Well,
All right, thank you for
Good
your
to go.
time.
Who's hanging the,
Thank you,
And
Mike.
Eddie and I will be in to sign it tomorrow. Okay?
Do you want to have 2 signature places?
Yeah, we had agreed,
Yeah.
both of us would
Okay.
sign it, so. As representatives of KR.
Thank you.
Okay,
All
guys.
right, thanks a lot.
Okay, the next item is the Thompson's Point Wastewater System Ordinance.
We're putting it in the plan.
I believe we agreed to a bunch of changes per the minutes and Dean's notes. So I believe we're in a position to adopt the documents the ordinance, the amendments, guidelines, task and responsibility, and leaseholder's letter. Should we go see if there's any questions one at a time? You want to kind of remind us on what we updated
The
that
main-
was last
yeah.
meeting?
I'd say the main change was to section 305,
Yep,
to break out what the connection fee is, the three components, the cost of extending the sewer, the cost of the connection of each structure, and the prorated depreciated cost of the original system. So the cost of extending the sewer, we have those costs. They were the cost of Steve Williams, some engineering and some legal costs, and we prorated those between the 7 camps to $2,400.
right.
The cost for the original system was calculated by Dave Marshall, civil engineering, to be $10,500, and you're allowing that portion to be paid over 20 years. And then the connection to the camp will be the option of the camp owner either to hire the system operator or to have their own contractor do it with oversight by the system operator. So that cost will be determined when they connect.
And what's the other part was the penalty, right?
There-
Weren't they the two main items?
Well, there wasn't any change to the penalty. Yeah, there
We
was a
com-
little bit of,
Frank had us combine a paragraph.
yeah, the first paragraph that describes the date.
On the 10,500, where does it say that it's paid over so many years?
Yeah, that's in that's the last paragraph of section 305.
Okay,
I saw it earlier.
it's a long ways away.
Yeah, why did we do 20 years again? That's too far. Seems too far.
How many years everyone else had to pay
On the bond
to
issue they
make the
had.
payments, so it wasn't so much upfront on everyone?
I think that seems too far away to me too. But I think that's too far, Matt.
In terms of formatting, Frank, I did wonder whether to, the paragraph that describes the 10,500, to move that down closer. So I understand what you're
Yeah, I would have
saying.
taken the last paragraph and put it right underneath the prorated depreciating cost of the original construction has been calculated to be 10,500 per connection, and then take the owner of a structure, that last set paragraph, and put it right below it.
Move this paragraph here to below the 10,500.
Yeah,
Okay.
that way they're together. I mean, why are they separate?
Yeah.
They should run together.
No, I understand what you're saying. I wrestled with that too. I was thinking the description of the cost of the connection was also relevant, but I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
I mean, I don't disagree with Carrie. I think 20 years is an awfully long time. It's, to me, it's not that much. So I think 20 years, so the payment would be how much?
$500 a year at 20 years, it's $1,000 a year at 10 years.
I mean, most likely somebody's gonna sell their camp within a 20-year period.
Well, it just carries forward. It was, what we're trying to
Well,
do is
get
to
you a
make
lot
it.
more money for your camp if you've got good septic.
You'll have a good septic. It was trying to be fair. We voted on this a couple of
I
times.
remember, well, a
Yeah.
couple of times. I remember the one time.
Well, we reviewed it last week. Matt brought it up whenever we started this thing 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah.
Still like that, Matt?
Mary was bringing it up before again,
Which point?
Still like
The 20 years.
the 20 years.
I do. It prevents us from having any of the leaseholders say that they're being treated less fairly from a legal standpoint than everyone else on the same system. So, and we also put in there they can pay it off sooner if they want. So if someone
But
wants a
is there
10-year
interest or penalty, any interest?
No, it goes into the fund. It's not like we're paying back a debt, like putting in the force main. We're putting money into a revolving fund, and it's a form of cash for that fund for future maintenance, things that need to be done.
And the system has already been paid for, so it's
Yep.
really just reducing slightly the future capital costs that everyone else already enjoys or has paid into. But I'm looking at section 305. We set up a 1, 2, 3 in the first paragraph. It'd
Yep.
be nice to continue, and right now it looks like it's 1, 3, 2 with the
Yeah, I understand that's the reason why I ordered it that way is because the known amounts, the 2,400 is a known amount, the 10,500 is a known amount. The connection fee is not a known amount.
Then in the first paragraph,
Why is that?
I would suggest
They're not
making 2, 3, and 3, 2.
Okay,
Versus changing the order of
Okay.
the paragraphs below.
okay.
And then it will,
It'll,
so to keep the second, third, and fourth paragraph consistent with the 1, 2, 3 order.
Yeah.
We take that big paragraph, the fourth one down, which represents number 2. And we see it's.
Change the order of that paragraph?
Well, no, just change the sentences instead. Because Dean's point is that paragraph is a question mark for dollars.
It's an unknown.
Right, so make that number 3 in the top paragraph.
That's fine.
That way we can keep the
Keep the order.
the
down.
order where we have the 2 known costs
Yeah.
listed
That's
first.
fine, that's fine.
And how does one know how much the unknown is gonna be?
Well, they may pay for it by themselves and it'll be 0 owed to the town. Or they might have Steve Williams do it, in which case he'll come up with a bill and that's when we would find out.
but even if they do it themselves, they would still have to pay for Steve Williams' time to oversee the.
The time, yeah, the approval time, which
Yeah.
would be an hourly
Maybe.
amount.
So when the letter,
No matter who the tenant has, or the camp owner has do the connection, our guy is gonna have to be there to make sure that it complies with the rest of the system.
That they put the right amount of stone in and all the specs, he has to sign
So,
off on.
so,
Depending
so
on
we're
who the
gonna have to
connection
pay,
contractor
so the town will pay for that.
How
Yeah,
much
And
it
then they'll,
costs.
right.
Okay.
So that one's unknown.
so the letter has an example, when we get to it, to the leaseholders of Lane's Lane, and said, we have one example of a camp recently hooked up, $6,880. So we're giving them an idea of what it could cost when we go to the letter. So the specific is unknown, but with the letter, they'll have a good idea.
I'd also like to see those next 3 paragraphs with a 1, 2, and a 3. That way the reader can follow it.
It's good.
And if we do it like that, I think we could squeeze in that paragraph into 2.
right.
And it would be clear and it wouldn't lose.
Keep it the same paragraph?
Yeah.
Keep it as one
Keep
paragraph?
the flow going.
Yeah, it could be one whole paragraph.
Okay.
Yeah, keep the
Alright.
flow going. I think it would be.
So that's over, that's that paragraph
Good, well, this goes in here.
tied in.
Trying to think, is you could have one, the cost associated with extending the sewer system, and then
Then
put the sentence. I'm thinking you don't want to have 1, 2, 3, and then have 1, 2, 3 again, do you? Do you want to,
Yeah, it's kind of like a thesis statement.
okay? But you could put the thesis statement.
In the whole paragraph.
1, and then put the sentence, and then when you get to 2, put in that paragraph. You could do, there's different ways.
It'd be a long paragraph, but
you could even take, you got the connection fee shall include 3 components.
Yeah.
And then bring it like
What I'm saying.
Lane is saying, write down and just take number 1 and put it right down here at the beginning, number 1, and then do this first little paragraph,
Yeah.
and then take
That's what I'm saying.
or change to number 2 here and bring it right down to our next one, so that
Yeah.
you got your entrance and everything, and you got your 1, 2,
Right.
3.
I like it, yeah. That saves 3
Yep.
long sentences.
Yeah,
Do you follow that then, Dean?
I think so. So
We're trying to make it clear what 1, 2, and 3 are.
Paragraph will end with the connection fee
Three
shall
components?
include 3 components.
okay, semicolon. Or
No, and then
colon, and then
one.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, and,
go down.
Okay, got it.
You
and
get
those.
3 paragraphs.
Yeah, and the 3 sentences in the main paragraph they kind of already are the
Yeah.
first
The first sentence.
sentence
of
of
okay.
the
Yep.
subsection.
Yep. So delete, Kathy, I don't know if you care, but delete after components.
Yeah, I think that simplifies that.
Much.
Yeah. And then it'll be 1, 2, 3 down here.
If I'm not mistaken, what was
Yeah,
it?
the way you have
Penalty was
it,
toward the end.
exactly.
Yeah, penalty was like 11101.
Just, like on the third paragraph, you still might want that, the prorated depreciated cost of the original construction of the public sewer to be the lead sentence of that. But the first 2, I think, are pretty much verbatim, repeating what's in the first paragraph now.
Okay.
I think just the third paragraph doesn't have that. I mean, the cost to connect each structure to Lane's Lane is the new 3.
Yeah, I think the first sentence of number 2 will come down. Yeah.
Yeah.
The paragraph, I guess, so number 3, which is the cost to connect each structure, I currently have that broken into 2 paragraphs.
Yep.
That will be okay, it'll be number 3,
Be a new number 3.
new number
We're
3.
flip-flopping 2 and 3.
Yeah,
And you have 2, that's fine.
yeah,
There's nothing after it, so
Yeah.
I don't think it'll confuse.
Okay.
It'll just
Yeah.
go to 3
Okay.
to 6.
Right, so the prorated depreciation cost is still the number 3?
No.
No, that's number 2.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, that became 2.
Oh, I thought we were getting rid of the numbering up there.
We are.
We've had legal review, all we're doing is
yeah,
simplifying the
Before-
existing words.
yeah.
Just making it flow.
Trying to make it simpler. Make it flow.
Cut. That's an English class.
Get down to bare bones. Other than that, I think that'll work out better.
Okay, and you satisfied with the enforcement penalties? Frank, you had some inputs last time to combine some paragraphs.
Yeah,
It's
that was all I had.
11, Article 11,
The,
enforcement penalties.
yeah, Article 11,
This sentence, each day, any such violation shall be deemed a separate offense. That was moved from down below
right.
to paragraph 1.
The paragraph on, at section 1101 was just extended by 3 lines.
So Frank, who's enforcing this?
Who's
How's this
enforcing
getting
this?
enforced?
Well, this,
Town-
It
well, it
says,
says right in here, we have the town administrator, the health officer, a commission member, a law enforcement officer, or a duly authorized designee of the commission, so we can appoint anybody if we want to. But there's also our town zoning administrator, health officer, it could do it anyways.
Because
I mean,
it's
it could
state
fall
law.
underneath him because of, it's gonna be, part of it will be a septic issue, so it'd be a health problem. And part of it's going to be, an ordinance that's by the town, so I'm assuming the zoning administrator would make sure that any, violations of an ordinance are followed.
But the intent was, this is the stick. The intent is to advise someone who's not in compliance to correct the matter. Is that the way you see it, or?
Well, the idea is that if there is a violation, the idea is to notify them that there is a violation. And this is kind of just a sticking point to say, it really needs to be done. and if you don't have a penalty or a cost, on the most part, what would encourage somebody to fix something?
And I get that part. And so,
But on
say
the
there's
most
a
part, it may
complaint
not-
comes along, who's going to be the first one to go down and check out that complaint?
It depends on what the
Well,
complaint is.
it depends on what the complaint is, and it depends on, if it has to do with enforcement of this ordinance, then at this time, this says that the town administrator or the health officer can do it.
Or a commissioner.
So Dean could do it, or the health officer, which mean Aaron could do it. And that's just in town, without the commission authorizing somebody else.
And so does the board get to know it before the administrator or the health officer goes, or no? Seeing as
Well,
we're the-
we are the commissioners, so
Right.
it doesn't, I would assume that we could be notified, or we should be notified, because we're the ones that are, when it comes down to it, we're the ones that are gonna have to make sure that things are followed.
So I believe that if there is a situation, that the board should be notified and it should be worked out from the board
So you want
down.
something in this document that says
Well, I
that the board, how do you want it, I mean, how would you do that?
I don't.
I think it's a kind of a goodwill thing. You know, if there's a problem,
Well, there's
I think
things
it-
that happen that we're not really always notified about, and I just think that this is something that it's ours, we should be notified. And then, whatever, that's just my thought. You're gonna,
we've only had, like Mary said, we've had one issue in 24 years.
well, it's been a good, clean run of 24 years, but things are different now with Airbnbs and a lot of rentals and a lot of different things.
Well, you look at this paragraph, it says, nothing herein shall preclude the town from pursuing any other remedy provided by law. We could provide a warning, we could go to the penalties so listed. I mean, I think we have the flexibility to cooperate and to work with the potential violation. And we're the town.
I mean, no matter what, I mean, once, I mean, I understand what you're saying, because I understand the need for the commission to know what a violation is being issued for. And maybe, and again, maybe the commission may decide that it's not something they want to pursue. The violation. They may not want to pursue the violation.
Right.
Even though the town administrator or the health officer feels that it is a violation of the ordinance. I mean, I don't know what you would put in here unless you put in something that says that an authorized representative, before issuing a notice of violation of this ordinance, get approval from the commissioners. Or at least one commissioner, if not all of them. I mean, that's kind of the way I see that you'd have to put it in there, that one commissioner or I mean, it depends on the violation too, because I hate to have a violation that is an imminent danger of, you know, a health issue, and we aren't meeting for 2 weeks. And it's something that needs to be fixed, you know, immediately.
just notification to the commissioners of violations. How's that?
We can try to have an emergency meeting. We still
Well,
need 24 hours.
We have those powers.
You just,
You could add a sentence under here, you know, any violation of this ordinance shall be civil matter, blah, blah, blah. Any person violates shall be subject to penalties. We could put in a sentence like you're saying, the commission is to be notified within 24 hours of a
Violation.
suspected violation.
perfect.
You want to do that?
Yes, please.
Well, before a notice of violation is
Issue.
issued.
Yeah. Thank you.
Or notice of, would be a notice,
That's a good one. Before
would be a
notice.
notice of violation.
We could add a separate one-sentence paragraph under 1101, before notice of violation given, the commission or commissioners, what are we?
Commissioners.
The commissioners will be notified. People like that?
Yeah, well, that's basically office stuff anyways,
Okay.
but, yeah.
Well, I'm thinking 20 years down the road, we've made it clear
Yeah.
that
No, it's
the
fine.
board should be.
Okay, so this document, a few more changes then?
Yeah, so we do need signatures on that, and we need signatures on a notice that gets published.
Well, we're gonna go through stuff. You got 4 items here, right?
Right.
So I mean, we probably don't want to vote on it until we have a final clean document, or do we?
No, that's right, I am gonna ask for a final clean document.
Okay, so then we're not going to vote on it tonight then.
Right,
Okay, so that last edit, do you want that, like, letter C under 1101?
I was just adding it under 1101, part of
Okay, the first paragraph of
the, yeah, and I would just
1101,
add a sentence, before notice of violation given,
amended time to time?
commission will be notified, and just
Okay.
have it maybe a space, kind of a one-sentence paragraph. Yeah, so we're not going to approve this until it's a clean document, I guess. Okay. So the next item are the leaseholder guidelines. And that's this document that we took from a lengthy one to a small
We're okay
one.
with
What?
with Schedule A?
That's been gone through many times. We haven't had any changes to that. I think everybody's been
Okay.
happy with that. Chris gave us feedback, et cetera, on that. So the next one is, I lost it. Okay, advisory committee roles and responsibilities. So we've been through this, simplified.
Can I just
Okay.
insert one last thing? I was trying to play catch up. It looks like, I think the first time I see it is section 604. Goes capital A, capital B, capital C. So then just in section 11. Right back to the system ordinance, yeah. Just for a copy
Article
edit.
11. is that
Just a
what
copy edit, no content.
you're saying? Oh, I see what you're about to say.
Capital A, capital B,
Yep. You
And
see what he's saying, Dean?
1102.
Formatting.
Okay. Is it go small a?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that would be for 1101 and 1102.
So what's next?
This one is called the roles and responsibilities. It was revised over the last few weeks. I think this, roles and responsibilities of the advisory committee.
There's 2 documents, Leaseholder Guidelines and
Did I
Thompson's
skip
Point.
one?
Got it, sorry. It was on the bottom, but it's a nice, neat document to go through.
Okay. How come I can't find mine? What did I do with it?
It's,
What did you say it was?
in order, the leaseholder guidelines comes first, and then roles and responsibilities.
So we're gonna do the leaseholder guidelines first?
Sure. If I can know activities.
It's a bear, but.
I think it's right after the Schedule A.
Schedule A.
You had the strike-through copy, yep, and
Yeah.
then there it is.
No, that's the ordinance.
Yeah.
Whatever reason.
It's a two-pager.
I may have shuffled the deck. It's a two-pager?
Like,
Okay, we can share or,
good share.
okay.
That's what it looks like.
So we're looking at the guidelines. So one of the key items that was updated, I think, is we had the indirect discharge permit we went over last meeting, April 15th, October 31st, right?
Right.
Is that longer than it was, you mean?
No, there really weren't any changes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In the whole document?
Is this all these, timeframes consistent with our ordinance?
Yeah.
Yes. So this is kind of a summary of what the restrictions of the discharges into the wastewater system.
Can I just throw one more copy at it?
Sure.
I saw in the second paragraph, operating system, we're using the 15th and 31st. Can we have that in section 505 of the guidelines? That's consistent. Yeah, just the TH and the ST on the numbers. Just so it reads the same.
Okay, that's good.
Oh, to add that to the ordinance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Best you can.
Does that go to for all dates? I mean, there's other dates in here.
Yeah, I saw November 1st. I like it because it's how it's how it's read, but I think it is a style thing. They have a name, but after the numbers on the dates, that actually has the,
Oh, yes.
yeah, I can't remember the name of that.
So we went over these with Chris as far as the requirements for fixtures. 1.6 gallon per flush. Faucets.
Paragraph of operating system. Pressurized sewer lines? Is how it referred to it in the, not pressure sewer lines?
I have heard pressurized. I have heard pressurized as a term.
Yeah, and I thought, it says just as pressure sewer lines.
Oh,
I think it's pressurized. The second line on the second paragraph of operating season.
Oh, pressurized?
Yeah. I thought I saw that in the ordinance somewhere. As pressurized. Yeah, section 501, last sentence, 2 lines up from the bottom. Into a pressurized sewer.
Okay.
And we left it as what's in the bathroom, not the number of bathrooms. Because we felt that the number of bathrooms didn't matter as long as the number of bedrooms was the same.
Right.
Although, in all this, we're talking about low-flow fixtures and everything, so we're trying to limit the amount of water that goes, but Okay,
I think some of that was just to stay in line with the state wastewater regs.
right. Yeah, I think it was probably to stay in line with the state regs and our permit.
Sorry, I'm late, but you're one ahead of the ideas.
Since point.
So we made a few changes to the ordinance, more grammatical, but anyway, we're not going to approve it tonight. We're going to get these changes that we went through, half a dozen. It's not big, no change in overall content.
Not that it isn't nice, but we have to explain to them what common leaks are.
Common leak.
Yeah. Leak detection, we can tell them how to do the leak detect, but why are we?
So these are guidelines for the leaseholders, so in theory, if there's a renter that's not familiar.
Question for you, Dean, I think. Requirement for fixtures. The one about the showers. The parentheses, is that hark to a day where someone could have 2 shower heads in their bathroom?
That was to limit the,
But we already, I think it just said in the prohibited discharges, it says 1 shower head per bathroom
oh,
on section B. There may have been a time when someone could have 2 shower heads, and then that parentheses was adding them up.
mm-hmm.
But I don't think we need it if, the parentheses, if there's only 1. It doesn't change the limit of 2 gallons per minute.
So just get rid of the whole thing.
Get rid
So
of the
for all showers,
parentheses.
there's only one
Yeah,
per.
yeah. Because for a second I got confused if that was all shower, like if there's 2 bathrooms.
Right.
Is that for both showers? But I don't
Well,
think,
some bathrooms have
yeah.
shower heads from different directions.
Number 2, avoid during laundry during peak use periods. Be it-
Avoid
doing laundry.
doing laundry?
Yeah,
That's a good catch.
That's a really good.
Avoid doing laundry.
Is that peak use for laundry or peak electric use?
or is that peak use for septic?
Like everyone does their
And how do you
laundry.
know, how do you know when the peak use during the day is for
For-
septic?
Yeah.
Well, they're
In that laundry.
That's funny. That's something that's just been in this guidelines for years?
I think so, yeah.
Hmm?
Don't do laundry during the 4th of July weekend.
Yeah, I always thought, they always say the 4th of July weekend's the
Right.
big time, but this doesn't say that.
Right.
You're thinking of it after midnight and everybody's sleeping, turn on your.
But that makes sense. Peak camp use, like during the peak of the season.
So if you're up there for the 4th of July weekend, you can't wash your
It
clothes?
would be good for peak septic use.
Well, just avoid washing your clothes. That's funny.
You can have the washer, but you can't wash your clothes.
Yeah, that's a funny one.
Talking about something you'd never ever be able to monitor. These
No.
are just guidelines.
No.
I mean, the intent here all through this thing is to
Oh yeah, let's change that one again.
We got another pressure under the wastewater system components.
oh, that should be pressurized again.
Yeah. I know you just looked at it, so I figured I'd ask you.
Section wastewater piping and step tanks, the first sentence, most wastewater service lines not along the road have little or no soil cover. These service lines are subject to damage from vehicle traffic. I think it does apply to service lines that are along the road, as well as those that may be off the road. So I would say delete not before along the road.
Delete not along the road.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Service lines have little or no cover.
We're sort of out of time on this. Do we want to, we have two more things, which I don't think if we're going to go line by line, we may not get done tonight then.
I think we're done with this one.
Okay?
I am anyways.
Why don't we go back on our schedule, and we have two other documents we haven't looked at yet. So if we're done early, we can go back to them? Okay. So we're not going to vote on these yet since there's a few changes. Lincoln Applied Geology contract.
Basically the annual contract that they monitor the Plouffe Lane landfill, which is closed. They provided an estimate of $6,747, and then the state is also requiring PFAS sampling, which is an additional amount. They would do one sample for which costs $585. If they do detect something, then there's an additional cost that could be up to $1135.
So is that in this?
It's in there. They have two estimates.
It's on the third page of this contract for services.
Yeah, Article 2 describes the estimates.
Estimating billing. So is this the same as the previous ones?
Their estimate is exactly the same. That 6,747 is exactly the same as FY.
It is the same.
Yes. And the PFAS sampling is new. It's required by the state.
Where do I see this PFA sampling?
There's a letter from
Okay.
Beth Erickson to Casey Catham. It's a
PFAS
separate
sampling.
document.
So that could be additional charge.
Right.
So what's your suggestion? So we have a budget the same as the previous year, and then we have this additional, should we add the 585? Assume there's no, then if there's a detection, then we
Yeah, could
approve the
yes.
increased rate?
Yep.
So you guys want to have a motion to approve the Lincoln Applied Geology for a total of $6,747 plus the PFAS sampling up to $585?
7332 is the total.
6,747, is that what you just said?
6747 plus 585 is
Plus
7.
585. I was going to separate it because
Okay.
that 585, if there's something wrong, then it might be an additional charge.
Yeah, I wondered about including the 585 in the base contract, and then if there's something wrong, it would be in addition to that.
Except the way it's presented, it's a separate letter.
It is separate, yeah.
And that'll flag this particular issue if there's a,
So you would make a motion for Applied Geology to conduct monitoring, sampling, and reporting of the Plouffe Lane landfill for $6,747 and not to exceed $1,135 for PFAS sampling.
okay, that's fine. Is that seconded?
Second.
Okay. You want to authorize, tell me who signs, all of us or just? Okay. Okay. That's been seconded. Any further discussion on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Public comment, we're 8 minutes late. Any public comment? Hi Kelly, you're going to be quiet, huh? For now. Select Board schedule. November 12th is Veterans Day. December 24th is Christmas Eve. Let's take a look at the calendar. So, first one is November 12th. What's your pleasure, guys? Monday, the 12th is Veterans Day. You want to make it Tuesday, the 13th, or?
Works for me.
Works for me.
Okay, I personally won't be here, but that's all right. So,
November.
I'm on November 13th, it's a Tuesday. You guys will be here?
Yeah, what time?
Just a normal meeting. Instead of doing it on Monday, we'll do it on Tuesday because Monday's a holiday. Okay? And now the December one. December, let's see what that looks like. So that Monday, the 24th is Christmas Eve. What do you think, Dean? You want to do it the 17th, a week early, just because we're doing budget and there could be needs for extra meetings?
At least pencil in.
So everybody agree with that, the 17th? Okay, that was easy. Okay, we're up to the Canine Control Officer. Come on in. Hi, Kelly. I gotta find the note on that.
It's a mic.
Yeah, a lot of fucking weird stuff going on over here.
You want this one?
Yeah, okay.
You should probably have one right in front of you that you get to,
Huge one. It looks like a crane.
You're on camera too, you know.
Yeah, it makes me very uncomfortable.
that's right here.
Oh, God. It's moving. I feel like I did that on purpose. Okay.
It's alive.
No changes to the budget.
So we're looking at, so last year, the year we're in now, 3,000. What's miscellaneous dog expenses, what's that?
Goes to the 600 for Comfort Hill.
Comfort Hill?
And then there have been if a dog has to go to Humane Society, they also charge.
This is just backup stuff. It doesn't happen very often, but it's important to have just in case. A lot of owners, if they do go to the Humane Society, don't pay.
Looks like your actuals that this year you're spending it. There's 788 against that $900. Unless Mary gets the bills and she pays them.
Yeah, that was previous fiscal year, and this fiscal year so far is the 600, which was Comfort Hill.
Okay. So anything you want to say, good, bad? You're working too
No,
hard?
same as usual.
Okay. All the town dogs are under control, huh?
I'd be out of a job if that was the case.
So you're,
Well, that's another story, Fritz.
Did things get better at Whiskey Bay? No, they kind of.
Yeah, you know what? I went down a couple times. I didn't have any issues, but you send someone down in like a bright jumpsuit, like people are probably going to be like a little confused. So it wasn't an issue.
did you get a vest?
I got a vest. I got confused for a construction worker very, very consistently. So I don't know. Maybe I just looked like one that was taking some time off on Whiskey Bay, but people tended to avoid me.
This is Whiskey Bay, or
Yes.
maybe we ought to order a jacket that has,
Well, that was the whole idea was to get animal control on it, but I never got around to it. And there was this whole thing about yipes. We didn't know if they did the printing or not. And like I said, let's just try it with just the plain vest and see if that
with
works.
a name tag on or something?
Well, I have like a little deputy health officer thing that I still have that says my name on it. It looks a little official, so that kind of works. But people don't look too closely.
So you're okay with that?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
I mean, it is what it is. It actually does help if I'm, I had to get a snapping turtle off the road the other day, which, by the way, is not part of the job, just something that I felt the need to do, but it helped.
Was it near where I lived? We had a big
No,
one
no
like
kidding.
this.
It was right over
Like a-
here.
oh.
They come right out of the marsh here. Yeah.
They're big, they're the one I saw.
Wait,
this
were they
year.
really down
I
by
took
you?
Yeah, Lake Road. I took a
I know
picture.
where you are.
Okay, and maybe you deposited it there.
I did just for fun.
There is a wetland right next.
Relocation.
Okay, I mean, no complaints, you're happy and enjoying your job, and it's good.
I'm doing it.
Okay, anybody have any other questions? Thank you, appreciate your work.
We all set?
I think so.
All right, guys, thank you, Dean.
So
Thank
we
you,
will-
random camera.
We will include this then. Okay, so that's good. Today is the 24th, huh? 9/24.
Budgeting is not here yet. Unless Chris wants to send in.
How
How about Sue?
So, you're representing,
The Cemetery Commission.
you're expecting partners or,
Yes, Vicky should be here very soon.
okay. Sue, are you anything, just an observer? Okay. Let me ask you, Dean, did you have land management? Because you wrote a,
Yeah, well, Carrie, you had asked to have it on the agenda at some point. I wasn't quite sure what you wanted, but
Well, I had heard, I talked with Adam, who does our brush hogging, and he was telling me that some of the fields in and around the town lands are starting to grow in, and he believes that they should be pushed back. I've asked a couple other people, and they agreed. Junior was one of them. The other thing is from what I understand, Plouffe Lane trails are full of the poison parsnip, and that's because Adam hasn't been able to go in and mow when he knows that it's necessary to do so. So, I just think that we should have pictures or understand the different areas of town and make sure that we don't lose open space to hedgerow or whatever. And I think Adam needs a little bit more.
So why couldn't he get in there when he thought he needed to?
I believe he was told not to, that there wasn't money. I don't know. So I would like to have a discussion with Adam and Junior and Mo, anybody that does any work here in the town, that we get together and just understand what we got and how much we're gonna cut back. Doesn't seem like, seems like we should do that now. Seeing as there's new people, Adam's fairly new and working from the town, for the town. He very much enjoys it, but he's disheartened by Plouffe Lane.
Thinking about putting in a new proposal for brush hogging or whatever, to clear to push back the hedgerows or whatever is growing in.
Yeah, we should talk about it, make sure. One time, we were down on a site visit in Thompson's Point, and I think it was you and I, that Dean showed a certain field, and he asked us what we thought, and we need to go back and look at that field. I've also heard that the Thompson's Point, they would like to have that area where cars park. They'd like to have some of that cleaned up, made a little bit neater, off to the right when you go down there.
Deer Point Road or off to the water?
The main road across from the caretaker's house.
All the way down.
There's some area, the north of the caretaker's house.
Well, that's Whiskey Bay parking then. What's Whiskey Bay parking?
yeah, and that's sort of country club. I mean, some of that's maintained by the country club.
So the thing is we would want to talk with Adam or maybe somebody from Thompson's Point, but he mentioned that there was stuff that they would like to have a little bit better, just a little bit neater. And I don't go down there very often, but I know that I'm quite taken by, that area doesn't seem as tidy as I would like. I don't know, it looks kind of messy to me. No offense, but it's the beginning of the camps and just, so, and I think that could be done just by more brush hogging, or weren't there cows down there? Weren't there cows?
Years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, a long time ago.
not that long ago, but 15 years.
Yes, sir?
So, Dean and I talked a little bit about the need for a management plan for the Thompson's Point lands. Because you brought up how Adam didn't know how far back to brush hog, if you want those trees cut down. And I've been assisting the Thompson's Point people in some invasive plant management. They're going to have a volunteer day this Saturday coming up. And Dr. Tonino is filling in and all the different, who manages what. It's kind of complicated. And I agree with Carrie that it should look a lot better than it does. It seems to look kind of gone downhill. I think Dean has talked to Al Amos on the Conservation Commission.
I have.
You haven't? Well, I have. About working on a management plan for that area, or hiring somebody to do a management plan that's will really meet the needs of the people and of the town. So Adam or whoever is doing the brush hogging will know what they should be doing.
It's hard to know how far to go unless it's stated in a, and that's why I was saying if it was something that we have to add to our brush hogging contract, or if it's got to be something, you know, or maybe even an extra brush hogging contract, or that would have to be done that could be done every year, so that everything can be taken care of. I mean, but we need a plan.
Should the plan be more than just brush hogging? Like, I don't know.
I would assume so. There'd be some kind of a maintenance plan, so.
I mean, public parking at Whiskey Bay, drainage
Yeah.
issues, that kind of stuff.
Who would put that together?
Yeah,
People at Thompson's Point, or?
we would.
I guess we would.
Town's land. I mean, Tom, with the help of, you
I mean,
know,
would-
such
would
as Sue
Park and
and the people
Recreation
at
get into
Thompson's
this?
Point, but
When's the next time we go out for bids
It's at Whiskey
for
Bay.
next year?
Whenever we go, when they're part of the spring.
Not that I want to throw
In the
something else on
late spring.
Recreation Commission, but
Are you looking to have some of this
it'd
done
be at
this
least be
year,
important that we
or
look at it.
be prepared for next year?
They've been putting them, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say we could be prepared for next year. Right?
Maybe put something in the budget for a plan, is that
And for more work.
true?
I had, add money
The
for work,
budget.
but somebody,
Or-
who's the
or
best,
town lands budget.
but who's best equipped to tell us what should be in this plan? I mean, the people that live out there, or,
Well, it's not just Thompson's Point, it's Plouffe Lane, it's, you know, it's different
I
areas
mean,
of
it'd have to be a
town.
it'd have to be a town lands
It's a
plan,
town lands plan, correct.
management plan of sorts to
Right.
be able to do any mowing or brush hogging or tree trimming or whatever needs to be done.
And I can see going to each area as a group, whatever size group that is, and kind of understanding the area the way it is now and what it was or what we want. Make that a plan, and then you know how to,
Start with a list of, you know, maybe we can find a map, Dean can find a map, and we'll put down what we do already. We do mowing at Plouffe Lane, we do this at the ball fields, or just identify what we do on a map, and then also on that map what we own, and we can figure out, yeah, well, maybe we should be doing something here, you know?
But it really concerned me when I heard that there was all that poison parsnip in the field at Plouffe Lane. And I think what happened was when you walked down the trail and went through the woods and you came out at that 20-acre area, it was just loaded. I didn't go out there, of course, to see it.
Right, but.
I take his word for it.
That's something that if it was brush hogged down, it wouldn't come
Right.
back.
So you would have to ask him about that.
There's some town lands, I don't know, we talked a year or two ago about that stuff that's across from the bridge there, across from the covered bridge. There's
Great
a
one. Yeah.
chunk of land that the town owns. There's a dog pound somewhere.
Pease Mountain.
Maybe
Oh, wow.
Well, it's called the town pound. It's not actively a pound,
Dog
but it
pound.
was maybe at some point.
On the top of Pease
livestock.
Mountain?
Or the mountain to the left of Churchill. I guess Pease.
Mutton Hill,
Mutton Hill.
Mutton Hill.
above the
Oh,
cemetery.
yes. Well, right.
That belongs
I mean,
to.
we
Sounds like
should-
we need a map to start with,
Yeah.
and then we can figure out where we mow, and then maybe we need to look at each
Fill in the gaps.
piece at a time. Yeah,
Right.
fill in the gaps.
Right, yeah.
Once every 4 years, we need to go through the trails with not a brush hog, but
Maybe a finish mower or
A few
something.
years ago, they were talking about parsnip. The select board authorized to mow certain areas a couple or 3 times in one season to knock it down, because once isn't going to be enough.
Right.
So it'd be good to identify what lands need that kind of extensive treatment.
Because it can go to seed within 6 weeks.
Well, yeah, if you knock it down in June, you know, it's gonna make it come back a little shorter, but it'll flower and go to seed. So,
So, should we have a large town map and start to identify? I mean, some of you guys would be quite helpful in that, and you got the Plouffe Lane, you've got covered bridge you're talking about. Which covered bridge?
The lower one. Big one.
Quinlan? No. Yeah,
Quinlan? Maybe identify some of these areas, and then we can take, like you said, take a look at.
Start with a bare one of those right there with no colors on it. Just the parcel map and
Yeah, we do have the data. I mean, we have a map that's basically ready to go. It just has a lot of other information on it. So all the gray areas are town lands. Down there. Burns property.
Well, there's not too many, so that's good.
Maybe make a list and what is currently brush hog, and then you're suggesting certain areas more than one and push back further than what we're doing now. So why don't we, maybe we identify these areas in a list? And take a look at it, and that can be the basis of an RFP for the next mowing.
Does mowing maybe can't work or whatever we decide.
Brush hogging, whatever.
There may be mowing, maybe brush hogging, it may need tree trimming, maybe, you know, I mean, if they're talking about the hedgerows coming in, you know, trees growing in, there might be need to move those back.
There was, yeah, there was a couple areas, I think we certainly would want to talk with Adam, because where the new trees were planted on Thompson's Point on the south side there's 6 or 8 of them. It sounded like there needs to be some more mowing somewhere in that field area. That's starting to,
which area is that?
I think by those new trees on Thompson's Point Road on the south side.
Just
There-
before you
the
get to the
field-
caretaker's house.
yep, before
on
you
the
get-
left there, as you're heading out.
The row of maples
Yeah.
and the 2 dying locust trees. So
There
you're
was something
suggesting
about
mowing in
that
there?
area. There was something about that area that he mentioned that needed a little work, and
We
he
start
wasn't
with
able to
that,
that, yeah.
What our comment is, and give it to
Right.
Adam for comment, give it to Judy for comment.
Yeah,
To work with a list, can we do that?
Start with a list, a map of the list of the parcels and say, these are the ones we got, this is what we got for contract mowing. I mean,
Yeah,
what do you think, Moore? What else do we need to do? Judy, what do you think we need to do? And if-
Yeah, I think we need an assessment of what each parcel has and what it requires.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have that at all right now.
what's currently being done,
What's currently being done or what needs to be done, whether it needs to be mowed, brush hogged, trees removed.
but we can start with what's currently being done, and then we probably would site visit some of them, or something.
Right, for example, Plouffe Lane. It's hard to visualize, I mean, there's a certain amount of land that's brush hogged, certain amount that's mowed, but it's hard to visualize what you're saying Adam's concerned about without actually seeing it.
I visualized it just fine, but I want to
I
see
mean, do you
it.
want, yeah, I guess the question is how much do you
Because I
want?
think it's a pretty big area,
Yeah.
and that's really, I worry so much about small children not knowing poison parsnip and a little
Mm-hmm.
child, oh, look, smelling it,
Yeah, let's cut a bouquet.
Yeah, or something, I really do, I fear that.
so you all right setting up a spreadsheet of
Yeah.
the lists and a couple of columns of what's currently being done, what needs to be done?
Yep.
What ought to be visited perhaps? We can talk about it as we come and go in your office, I think.
The tree ward would be very interested in.
Yeah, talk to the tree warden.
The road Maples on Thompson's Point Road, that's in the tree warden's bailiwick. And I'm really interested in the Thompson's Point area for brush hogging, mowing, and we're starting some invasive plant removal on the town land. So maybe we could put together that.
Well, once we get a map and where we're starting, we can solicit comments from Junior and the Trails Commission and the guy that mows and accumulate everybody's comments and see what to do with it,
Okay. Good suggestions. Says Shelburne Little League, so we've combined with Shelburne, or,
Well, operationally, that happened a while ago.
okay,
We always played games with Shelburne, and then we merged operationally, and I was a part of that merger, and the concession was they wanted to keep the Shelburne Little League name, so I said, c'est la vie. But the fields are still technically Charlotte Little League, so. So like I come here each year, I always like to say baseball's alive and well. There's 260 plus kids a part of the Little League, and it actually includes girls playing softball, and there's fields are getting great use. It's a great resource. Adult league play is happening there too. At this point, it just keeps chugging along, and this is an important part of it. And I simply ask for level funding. Clearly, it's tracking on budget. We're not asking for any changes, and it's an important part of the ongoing maintenance and operation of the fields.
And can we get a 5-year contract with you personally to come and visit us for the next 5
I
years?
like coming.
Okay, good.
Having any problems with your new driveway?
Not that I'm aware of.
need a driveway into the ball fields?
Well, just
From the Route 7 work,
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, I had heard whispering amongst the V-Trans people about the slope and the sight vision and stuff like that, but doesn't have seemed to have come to the level that may have been, so.
I think people are, I'm involved with the youth football program, and we play on Palmer's hayfield, and people go rumbling over grass and potholes. I think we got a little, we have a good crowd that knows how to navigate. How's that sound?
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been doing this a lot of years, but I can't remember your name.
Chris Bova,
That's one.
yeah. No problem.
Well, we appreciate what you do, Chris. Thank you. And we're appreciative of level funding.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks for coming in again.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hopefully it'll fit in the schedule just fine.
Yeah, no, that was easy.
Cemetery, this, we have a more challenging one ahead, I think. Okay, remind us who you are again, I should remember. Chris Fall. Chris Fall. Vicky, okay. So, yeah, why don't you tell us what you have in mind and,
All right, well, with regard to grounds maintenance, we are very happy with our current vendor. Adam has been a great asset to us as a consultant with regard to keeping the grounds in fine shape and the trees maintained. His pricing has been substantially lower than other bidders for the past 2 years, and he's anticipating bidding again in the current for this budget. But we're expecting his prices will be a little bit increased, so we're asking for $6,000 for lawn maintenance.
this was his first year doing town hall, right, or?
Second year.
Second, excuse me, yes. But we've been very happy with them.
He's mowing how many cemeteries? And that's $6,000,
East and West Breeding Grounds.
just the two.
But they're both challenging, very challenging spaces.
Yeah.
You've got slopes and you're trying to steer around those stones without scraping them, and the East Breeding Ground is
No grass, but it's
yeah, it's
parking area, right?
mowing the surface of the moon is very, yeah.
And just to add, since Adam has been mowing, I, for one, have not noticed any new
Yes.
damage of any kind. And we documented all of the stones so we can compare them. We haven't checked all of them, but we haven't noticed any new damage whatsoever.
And he was the low bidder.
The very little bit.
Yeah, he wasn't sure what he was getting into. was he?
Yeah, no. Right.
Okay.
And the big item for us is the fence project. This would be stage 2. And we are moving forward in the fiscal year 2019 with replacing the west burning ground fence that faces Greenbush Road. And we would like to ask at this time that we begin the formal bidding process to complete the work by June of 2019. The current fencing is now leaning away from the road and toward the fragile stones in the interior, the oldest stones. And the industrial look of the chain link, it doesn't really align with the historic nature of the grounds. I think in our last presentation we showed what our neighboring cemeteries are using, and we are quite a bit different from, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you, Dean. Yeah.
those are our neighbors.
Yeah. And if you, there we go.
So,
Well, and if you scroll back up and see what we have, that's Vermont Cemetery.
Yeah.
let me ask you, we increased on this looking at the budget you were in now. You were around 10,000 and we increased it to 15,000, right?
Yes.
And I can't remember what it was that you wanted to do at the year we're in right now. That added the 5,000 besides the mowing and things.
That's the front section of the fence.
So that's what, the 5,000 there does the front section?
No, 10,000 unspent today.
The reason we asked for the amount that we did for fiscal 2019 was to do the front section of
Okay.
the fence. We were hoping to do it,
Well, I'm asking for the year you're in right now, the budget went up 5,000 from 10 to 15.
right?
July 1st. I'm just asking you what it was you were doing the year we're in right now with that extra 5,000.
That would be the cost of mowing and the front section of the fence.
The front section of the fence. So by
Which is
July
what?
1st.
Which is what, Marcel?
Which
The
we have-
Greenbush Road. So-
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So the section of the fence along Greenbush Road, you have budgeted in the fiscal year we're in now, $10,000 that has not yet been spent.
Correct.
It looks like you've spent $5,000 out of a $15,000 budget. So they're saving that for springtime, summer.
Installation and payment before July 1st.
So then the 19,000 is for which two sides? The perpendicular
south.
sides
North and south.
Right.
to Greenbush Road?
To continue with.
The chain link fence? Or is this to change the fence completely?
The sides would be black coated chain link fence that would be more durable and a little more aesthetically appealing. The Greenbush Road side will be a more decorative.
Yeah.
The faux wrought iron,
Yeah, it's,
still square tube.
yeah, it's aluminum, it lasts a good long time and, yeah.
Will that hold up?
Yeah.
To the
To
snow
the
and,
plowed.
But do the cows come up to that? Robert Mack always talks about the life of putting in new fences, because are the animals right up to that fence?
They're not supposed to be on the front section.
The south section. The south section.
And the north section, and definitely the,
And the three sides are the.
yes. And Dean, can you show that little section of text? This is from the state statute on fencing, and just to paraphrase it, the onus is on the cemetery to maintain the fence, to keep the animals out. It's not the other way around, it's not to keep vandals out, it's not for any of those reasons. It's to keep livestock away from your stones.
And if you could show the slide previous to this, that, yeah, you can see how close the cows get to the fence right there. And below that, if you mind scrolling up, you can see the trails along the south side there where they go and feed and so on.
Right.
Some of the damage you saw in the previous here was from cows trying to test the theory that the grass is created on the other side of the fence. And,
Is this cat-proof is what I'm asking, man?
yes.
Proposing.
The fences you see here are at least 40 years old, if not older, and the elements and the cows and erosion and tree growth and over the past 40 plus years have taken their toll on them. And I would hope that the new plan is for the new coated fences to be a little more durable and hopefully take us at least another 50 years.
Well, they're not electric, they're not.
I was gonna say,
Push on them.
it's,
Yeah.
Compared to the price of putting those two picket fences in, adding in solar-powered electric fencing on three sides is going to be a minimal cost, and it will really protect the fencing.
You have or have not?
Have not.
As far as protecting the investment,
Yeah, that's probably, I don't know, Tractor Supply and maybe a $500 bill or $1,000 bill.
string, a couple
Plastic insulators
insulators,
and a hot fence with solar.
and that's in full sun, so
It is.
you wouldn't really need panels.
And so then you wouldn't have to
You
put
hold the
that
top
chain
of that
link
with a
fence
little
up.
wire this big.
No, it's to protect the
It's
chain.
Protect the chain.
wire
Rubber.
and nylon.
yeah.
They won't come here. Right. And that's, cents a foot.
Oh,
This
the
is.
the
works
1
out.
inch or 3 inch
Well, even
nylon.
just the single wire, I
Yeah.
mean, they know it. Doesn't-
Yeah.
Doesn't take them long.
But it would be a nice addition to just protect the, because once the posts go, the kind of whole fence starts to go.
Do you need to have a loop, or is it, do you do three sides? Oh.
You can do three sides.
Yeah.
It doesn't loop.
You come back to it.
Okay.
It's a hop fence with ground to the ground, so.
Okay.
It can dead end.
You can run, you can put the fencer in the middle, you can run two lines out to the sides and
It's fine.
That would need some signs to protect the visitors.
So what's planned to be being done now, plus the 19,000, that gets all four sides?
That would be three sides.
What you're doing right now,
Right. is the green bush.
That's now, with already paid, already in the budget. And then the 19,000 does the other three sides.
That's north and south.
Just north and south,
And
okay.
mine, you take that 6,000 for mowing
Okay.
and tree work and, you know.
So then the next,
19,000 doesn't, is just according to the spreadsheet, just for the fence,
which is $40 a foot,
Wow.
which is some pretty expensive fence.
That's,
So well, back to the green bush, I mean, as to the money's in the budget, it still needs to be bid with an RFP, and Dean can help you, tell you what the process is and how that works.
and what about a capital budget for something like that? Do we have to do all this all at once, or we do this over?
3 years.
right now it's 3 years.
Well, yes.
We talked about the capital budget, I want to say last year at this time, and we just figured we'd just spread it out over, there was no need to do that since we could just spread it out.
is it just the cows that we're trying to keep out of the
Three sides,
What are you thinking, 5 strands?
a hot fence without anything else. I mean, that almost, in terms of being attractive, it almost disappears when you look at it, because they're just wires that are,
Yeah, you can see it at Philo Ridge Farm, that's what they have,
yeah.
Oh, yes.
all the way
Well, I've
past.
got, I put in 15,000 feet of it, so. But I mean, you can see the post, you put in a treated green post, and then there's just wires that are 1/8 of an inch thick at the most. And when you look at it, it just, you almost don't see it.
It's
But it's the best thing for cows, because not only is it electric, but it has give to it. Chain link doesn't move when something pushes against it, it bends the chain link. This stuff is hooked up with springs, and if a cow does push against it, or a branch falls on it, it has give, and then as soon as you take it off, it pops back to where it's supposed to be. So, just as a thought, if it's only to keep the cows out from those three sides, if anybody wants to see it, you can come over to my farm, and I put in 3 strands, some people put in 5. 3 is what the federal government recommends for keeping cows out of anything. If you had smaller animals like sheep, you might go to something 5 strands.
I think it depends on whether you're looking for something for pure function, or if you're looking for something that has function and some kind of looks to it. Appeal, curb appeal to it.
Right.
It seems like the chain link, what's that expression? Camel is a horse made by committee.
Right.
And the chain link might be that, where people are trying to find something that's aesthetic and protective. And kind of in municipal settings, it works really well with humans, but cows, are way stronger than it, and it is expensive because it's material intensive.
And it's not cow-proof.
And it's not cow-proof. And it's,
So-
it reminds people of jails. It reminds me of jails, chain link, or, places where they want people to stay out of, where I I'm not on the cemetery commission, and I would defer to you guys' decision-making, but the idea of visiting a cemetery and having it open to those agricultural fields visually seems a lot more appealing than black chain link everywhere.
I mean, I put in a post every 50 feet, you might want to go a little closer than there or not, but I mean, it's a 4-inch green post, and then the rest of it just disappears.
What happens when it fails?
Same thing when any fence fails. I mean, I've had it for 5 years, and we haven't had a cow. No issues at all.
And what's the lifespan of the fence?
20 years.
The pressure treated posts.
With cows, pressure treated, the post is the thing, and the cost per foot is down to like, a few dollars.
Right.
So you can redo it every 10 years and still be way under this. And I just think you should, like Matt said, you should find some place that has a bunch of it, and when you stand back and look at it, it's like, if you look carefully, you can see it. If you're next to it, you can see it. But you get about 15, 20 feet away, and it just kind of blends in with the
Yeah. And take a good look
Is it
at it.
solar powered? I mean, is there any kind of electricity there, do you?
Well, electricity's the best. I mean, there's a power line that goes down there. I mean, there's no big deal.
Right.
Well, yeah, installing electricity would definitely come into the budget
Yeah.
as far as the alternative. I needed that assurance that it's not going to fail, you know, if it's
So
in the winter.
how about, how does it feel if you're visiting a cemetery and have your kids with you? Wouldn't you be kind of nervous they're gonna get in this electric fence?
If this was an active cemetery where I had, you know, living relatives that were known, but I just don't know how many people visit these two cemeteries with their
I was gonna
families.
ask that, yeah.
Because there's nowhere to park. I mean,
There's no
Right, there's nowhere to park. And there's probably not that many people that would, this is a very old cemetery, right? They have family members, I know there's some, but,
It'd be the same thing at Shelburne Farms had. And
Yeah,
the first
that
year
was-
that I moved here, I came here with my 2 kids and my wife, and the 3 of them didn't know what that fence was when it said do not touch, and they found out really fast.
That's over by the
You
pig.
could disable it when you had a group of people there doing, you know,
Oh, that's,
our work days.
it comes with it, well, you know, you wouldn't have one there, but mine has a remote control, so anytime I want to do something,
Right.
I just hit the button on the remote control and touch the wire, and it turns the whole system off. And then I can fix the fence, and then when I'm done with it, I just hit the button and it turns it back on again.
We do
But-
have people, I think since I've been cemetery commissioner, I think I've had 5 or 6 people reach out with stories of people and visiting and wanting to know what the rules are. And, you know, it doesn't sound like that much, but these are graves that go
Yeah.
way back.
Well, it's, you know, it's like it's at Shelburne Farms. I mean, if you take the farm tour, you'll see, they'll show you their nice tan cows, and they're on the other side of a hot fence.
Right.
And there's
Even
thousands of people that they push through there, kids and families and everything.
And the petting zoo, like up behind the farm barn there, there's the pigs, that's an electrified fencing, and then the llamas and the donkeys are in electric fence, and you can just walk right up and touch them. I'll tell you, if you touch an electric fence with shoes on, it doesn't feel a tenth of what it feels like if you take your shoes off. And most people are wearing shoes. It still bites, but it's not.
And again, what I was trying to say was that you could almost put a regular board fence up inside of the electric fence if you wanted to have the look.
Which is what Philo Ridge
Philo
Farm
Ridge
has
has
done
done
on
that.
Philo Road.
Looks very nice.
And that way, the people that are inside aren't going right to the fence.
Right.
They have a wooden fence inside the electric fence.
Right.
And even that would be cheaper than the chain link fence.
40 bucks a foot. But anyway, I can see, you know, the pickets along the front.
Yeah.
Looking good.
I had another, it's slightly off topic, but with the cemetery commission here, has there ever been any discussion within the commission of finding a place for an active town cemetery? And where have those discussions meandered?
Well, all over town. We're at an inflection point with cemeteries because the next cemetery that I would say most responsible towns will add have to have a green component at least. The Vermont laws about burial are so different than the rest of the country. Like, we almost have green burials at our disposal now, but the next cemetery may not look anything like a cemetery. It may look exactly like it does now. It's just a pasture. It might even have hay bales on top of it, and there are little tiny GPS locators in there, and people's remains are in there because they wanted to preserve it and keep it looking exactly like it does. So it's not quite as straightforward as it used to be, where, you know, it's a square space, a rectangle, and it's, you know, these things are important and all, Yeah.
I feel like I just heard a radio lab on, there's even a conservation effort nationally tied in with green burials, where
Right.
3 people can pre-plan to be buried in a certain property. In a lot of states, that creates a non-developable area. And so there's kind of a burial activism going on. But I was just, when I heard that, it made me think, you know, a lot of people are choosing to age in place in Charlotte, and I've even had some residents ask me, has the town ever considered allowing residents to be buried in the cemeteries? And I told them, I've seen the LiDAR. There's no way there's any room left in the cemeteries we have.
Gray spots, like we were saying on our map there.
Yeah. Even Shelburne's almost full.
And that's the town owns it?
The big one in Shelburne?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Or is it the church?
And it's, they said, like 8 to 10 years, they think. Because cremation is down nationwide. Vermont's lagging behind a little bit, but that doesn't mean you can't bury someone's cremains in a cemetery. So there's more options now, and of course that takes up less space, but, you know. Yeah, no, we talk about it.
Cool.
But what we actually did talk about was a budget in the more distant future that included money for a market study or some kind of feasibility study, so we can, you know, get a better handle on who would take advantage of a cemetery and what it would look like and where it would be, and, you know, what would the entrances and, you know, the egresses have to look like, and, you know. We've never had a cemetery that's had the ability to park at safely, so it's hard to imagine, you know, moving forward with one that did, so, yeah.
I think of the Galbraith property, that'd be beautiful up there.
Where's that?
Between Old Route 7 and New Route 7,
yeah.
by affectionately cast.
Oh, the corner out there,
Yeah,
Churchill
that's a
Road?
great spot, yeah.
That's town land.
Yeah.
That's be easy to access from Churchill, you know, Old Route 7.
Yep.
Be beautiful for people to sit up there and meditate.
So what direction have we given you? Ideas?
Many ideas.
Yes. Without-
Apply a couple thousand to the
Actually, yes.
feasibility, apply a couple of thousand to feasibility study and look at alternative fencing that might be less expensive, I don't know.
Yeah, I would, you know, just as a committee, look at some of the fencing that's purely agriculture, and just pretend there's a fence not there. Look at it, you can see different types of fence at Shelburne Farms. There's any number of farms around Charlotte that have 3 or 5 wire fences.
Yeah, we've only ever looked at it from a cemetery standpoint, not from the agricultural standpoint.
Yeah, what I'm trying to do is keep the cows out. then
Right,
it's-
right.
Then
I mean,
it's
it
an
does have
agricultural.
other purposes.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's the big one.
You know, and then maybe that can be, you start with that one and then have a long-term plan for picket fence all the way around. Keeping the cows out. The best way to keep the cows out at this point is probably the cheapest option,
Yeah,
because that's what it's meant for.
right.
How much time would you like to look at alternatives for fencing? What I'm thinking is, maybe come back to us in a month or 6 weeks with maybe some alternatives or some options that have been brought up. Is that reasonable, or?
I think that would be a good amount of time for us to look at this and maybe get a feel for how the public feels about putting an electric fence around the cemetery.
Yeah, like we're saying, that Fritz has the wire fence. Philo Ridge has a great double fence. The wood looks great, and it's got electric on the inside. You would reverse it, put the electric on the outside, because the cows, in your case, are on the outside. And you may be able to do all 3 sides at a lower cost if it's an alternative kind of fence.
Right. That's right.
Anyway.
All right.
And what about the 3,000? Could you talk about that headstone repair? $3,000?
Right, that's.
Volunteer efforts.
We have teamed with the Vermont Old Cemetery Association, VOCA, and we've had volunteers volunteer weekends where folks come in and give us a hand writing stones and repairing them. And we have spent roughly $3,000 for the materials used to repair and so on, to write the stones. So we're looking to just keep that for the upcoming years. We'll keep that cost where it is now.
And $3,000 for how many years in a row now for repairing them?
Well, not to undo what you just said. The VOCA days don't cost us $3,000. The expertise to get the people in there to continue the work that is being done would. We will use VOCA whenever we can. Diane Leary is our conduit to VOCA, and she had a devastating car accident this year and is still recovering. And we did lose a little momentum there, but we can't count on 30 great volunteers to show up. They've already done it twice. In that time, they probably did $10,000 worth of repair work, and it cost us, $200 just for supplies and whatnot. So to move forward with Pete and what's his last name? Demick, yeah, and Vermont Old, Walkways or whatever.
Walkways and patios?
That's it, sorry. Yeah, that's how much we would like to spend moving forward. We've got stones that have been scaffolded for, 5-6 years, I'm not gonna try to move them. They're fragile and they need to be fixed once and for all. I mean, it looks like a, definitely a work in progress, and it should to some degree, but we need to get some expert people in there and get some work done.
It'll probably be quite a few years before you catch up to stone maintenance.
I don't want to say never, but you're right.
It's probably something that those things that are that old that are masonry need to be fixed.
Perpetual care.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. One of the reasons we're interested in replacing the fencing, however we do it, is we know that there are broken stones on the outside of the fence. And we think when they take the old fence up, we'll have the opportunity to at least get some of those back, because it's awful. They're pinned underneath the fence and they're half buried and, yeah.
Are they actual burial sites or just
Fragments of
We think
stones
there's
from
just
inside.
stones, because that would have shown up.
Right, on the LiDAR.
But he didn't go around the back, but still, they're, it's
Yep.
pretty, yeah.
Pastures creep out.
Anything else?
No, so should we set a date for when we come back?
Well, when you come up with, so I'd say, if we're talking today's 1st of October sort of, and mid-November, we have to get our budget together toward the end of December, early January. So I'm saying 6 weeks, and maybe you get a better feel and see how it looks compared to what you told us today.
Okay.
So I talked to Dean.
November 13th is an open date. That's a Tuesday. We just,
Fritz, is there a
Company that installs these five-strand electric fences?
Yeah.
Not that you're giving a referral, but that you would,
Well,
they
I
could-
just,
Plouffe Creek has their name all over the fence here.
I just sold my post pounder to Chris Fortin, so he's now in the business.
But Hawk Creek is the one that's done Philo Ridge.
They did the electric as well as the,
Well,
I
I'm
know they did the
assuming,
wood.
they've done a lot of fences around town. I see their name quite a bit.
Yeah.
So it's something that small,
Like I
this
said, Chris
simple.
Fortin,
I mean,
He's
Simple,
got
yeah.
his, good local.
Okay, well, thank you. Gave you more work. State Park Road Trail, that's the next item?
Is Jim not here yet? We are expecting him. We're a little early still. So if you want to move on to either USDA grant, Abby's here.
But Dean, I'd like to go back for the 3 quotes for the fence that they're putting up
I didn't receive it.
along the road.
I think they did that for budget, they need to be.
They have to go out, and I think Fritz mentioned to them to get with Dean for the bidding process,
For the,
because it's over $5,000.
Right.
So they'll have to bid it.
And then you'll find all kinds of fencing.
yeah.
Oh, so Jim Donovan is coming?
Yes.
Well, you know, that fence on
Yeah, I do have it.
Mount Philo Road,
Just
where they took down the barn, the Morgan Horse place,
Yeah.
that was done by a company from Texas.
Morgan Horse Place where?
On Mount Philo Road, across from where they just took down the barn.
Oh, yeah.
That was like a Texas company came up here and put that fence in.
Oh, I know that family.
Whoa.
So, should we skip to Abby, or are you having support team here? Or you're the support team? You're the total deal.
Hear it?
The fire team of one.
That's all we need.
Just the tire, I guess, will be really quick. I met your two keys.
I heard.
That's really fun, I called them quick. Do you want one of these? Yes, so I'm here to just tell you that a while ago, the Northeast Recycling Council invited the town of Charlotte to participate in a grant that they applied for to the USDA for implementing rural community composting sites. And this is on a pretty small scale. So, yeah, we're one of 7 sites, and we're one of 2 in Vermont, the other being Stratford. And why Charlotte? We were invited. So we have, been running a successful compost shed for, this is the 5th year, and demonstrated that we're, doing it sustainably and following best practices, and it's not a nuisance item, but a benefit. And I have been involved with Vermont Community Garden Network, Compost Association of Vermont, and NERC at statewide presentations. So, talking about small-scale community composting. So I think that's what led to the invitation. And there is local interest among my neighbors on my road, but there's also, I've learned of recently, interest at Champlain Co-Housing, which I don't really know how many households are there, but they've been composting as a group and are not pleased with how it's operating. So they could potentially be the partner site. There's also a possibility to just open up the CCS compost shed to like 20 families, which would be a slightly different model because that facility is already built and it has more capacity. And I think that there is some sort of percolating interest among some local farms that would take organizing and sort of much more investigation, but we might get to a tipping point eventually where people really in Charlotte take this very seriously, that we should be composting locally to reduce our carbon footprint and not be paying haulers to do it, as one option at least. So I think when CSWD came and talked about budget issues, they let you know that there were some legislative changes this year in the requirements for haulers, that they don't need to actually be offering curbside collection of organics until 2020, and even then, it seems rather tenuous because of just the model of private haulers and having enough density in their route to make it economically feasible. So with that as a backdrop, and with still household food scrap diversion being required, so that the generators on all levels by 2020 will be required to divert from food scraps from landfill. It does seem to be providing a nice backdrop for this grant and solid waste districts in general, sort of trying to boost
training in communities of home composting and then small scale community composting. So that could be part of why NERC got this grant. So, and also, this is in the revised town plan, a whole section on your solid waste now. There are some updates, and I won't go into the sections, but I think I'll leave them with Dean to give them to you, but that it really supports not only small-scale community composting, but maybe having the town support other options and infrastructure for households, people who don't want to home compost. So I'm just, again, foreshadowing that. It's something that it is in our town plan now, and it's something that I would like to sort of do an outline of some action steps, not tonight. This tonight is just to tell you about this grant. So yeah, it's not like a big infusion of money at all. It's mostly raising awareness about the issue, having a specific site with a compost team that NERC will come in and do 6 different trainings for. So the first 3 trainings, I believe, are going to be like how to compost and what are the considerations when you're setting up site, designing the bin, what do you need for a recipe to make successful compost, and other organizational things. And that is going to be open to anybody beyond the designated site. So I think that's appealing, that just anyone can come to these trainings to learn more about how to compost. And then they are going to, beyond that, offer 3 hands-on technical assistance visits, and those are their target times. So they're just getting going now, and I think more activity will really be starting over the winter with the training maybe, but spring, yeah.
Are you coordinating that?
You know, I guess I am at this point, at least so far as to either decide where is the partner site going to be. Is it going to be in my neighborhood? Is it going to be at Champlain Co-housing? That would be kind of great.
What about the trainings?
The trainings, I would be working with NERC and probably someone like Margaret at the Woodruff at the library.
So as far as publicizing, you'd be...
Yes,
okay.
yeah. And we would just use all Front Porch Forum and the local newspapers.
Maybe have one at the Grange, have one here,
Sure.
at the library.
I mean, so I've done that kind of outreach for the survey that we did, and I feel like we'll get the word out. And there is this small amount of money for materials. It should be noted that there's more potential money to match, use that money to match for CSWD, like container grants. So if there's more interest, then I think there's going to be, but if there's more interest, and there maybe are a couple neighborhoods wanting to do this, I think that we might be able to help them get going with bins or materials to build a simple bin system that's vector proof, that's built correctly. Yeah.
Training is very important because there's been 2 compost fires so far this summer.
You have?
It's
Really?
Yes.
It was, you don't water your pile, it can be a problem.
If you don't do it well, it'll start
Yes.
on fire all by itself.
Wow. That, I would like to hear more about that, but.
Dick St. George will fill you in.
Okay. Right. So yeah, and the partner communities will help, like if the generic training needs to be honed specifically to this community or that particular neighborhood or whatever, there would be input from us on that, and we would form a compost team, and we would work with NERC to ensure best practices and sustainability of the site. So
This isn't a match sheet, right? It's just...
no, it's just, yeah, it's just a little
one.
fiddly grant. But,
The town isn't putting any money in that, is what you're saying, right?
no,
No.
nope.
And how many other states do something like this? Do we have other
So this-
models that we're looking at, or?
Well, there are, I think the sites are New York, Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, Vermont. So yes, yeah. And they've looked at some urban models, but this is specifically, like in New York City, for example, it's pretty exciting. There are really a lot of community composting drop-offs and sites on a small scale.
They got a lot of food.
They do, yeah. But yeah, this is specifically rural communities, so. And also those groups that I had collaborated with a little bit, they've already done this in, I think, 3 sites in Vermont, mostly using garden communities, gardening cooperatives. So they've sort of run their training and the technical assistance. So. Yep.
So you're kind of informing us of what's
Yeah.
going on. There's not a particular action you're asking for us to take, per se, right now?
That's right, but I have been asking Dean about, just thinking, because again, this is not going to take care of all of the food scraps generated in Charlotte by people who don't want to do home composting or small scale composting, and maybe it's too expensive for them to think of hiring just their own hauler. And I have, mentioned to you in the past that it would be really good to explore options about some sort of a consolidated hauling contract for either like a curbside hauling contract for organics alone, or perhaps a fast organics, not trash, but drop off on Saturdays. And I guess a third option would be to piggyback with some existing entity. I mean, it's tempting to think about piggybacking with the school, but that's not just Charlotte, it's a supervisory union, it's a consolidated district. But, very rough estimates, like we have 8 64-gallon food scrap collectors and collection bins, and I would think that actually like 14 more of those of that size would handle a lot of the household food scraps generated weekly by people who were not doing home composting or some other.
So then you need to find a place to put them.
Yeah, I mean, so it's like exploring the option of working with the school as a drop-off site, not just on a Saturday, but through the week. And Chittenden Solid Waste District also talked about waste reduction grants up to $5,000 to create, for the town to create a dedicated drop-off site that would need to probably be constructed. Wouldn't have to be that complex, but it would be a little more complex than the other things I've mentioned, I think. So this is kind of supported by our town plan, what I'm talking about, even these options, like that the town will explore this. And I think that when they say the town, I think they mean you. So, we're aiming to get something in place by 2020. So,
You want us
if you want,
to,
what?
you have this letter that Dean's written, a letter for the grant.
That was
That was
last
for
year.
this little grant, yeah.
That was to apply for NERC to apply for the
Yeah.
grant.
Okay.
So do you want to have like an update at some point, maybe in?
Well, what, I'm just throwing this out. Like, what do you think your next
is
steps
there-
are? What are my next steps?
Is
What
there
are
a
our
budget-
next steps?
Is there a budget component to this that we ought to consider as we're doing budget reviews, like tonight and the next
If
few
we
weeks?
do a drop-off site,
Yeah.
there would be a budget.
Yeah. Do you want to mention that you made some phone calls?
I put in a call to Casella Myers and Trashway to see what a drop-off site would cost. That was just today. So I didn't actually reach them, but they said they would get back to me pretty soon with some numbers. So that would at least give a sense of that option. There might be, as Abby said, there could be other options, whether it's using the school or diverse locations, but that...
An intriguing thought, because most of the bigger loads are gonna be from families, and families take their kids to school. Let's just put a barrel on the back of Frank's bus, and when they drop the kids off, you can throw your bag in the back of the barrel, and then you're done.
I love that.
Yeah, bikes in the front, compost in the back, you know?
That would
Bus is equipped with.
That's it.
compost
be, be national news.
That would really be cool.
I'm sure we
That's
can
just-
figure out
it's
how
the
to hook
same-
a
same
drum to
with
the
putting
bumper.
plows on them to plow the roads in the wintertime.
That would be like an energy absorbing bumper, Frank, so when someone runs into the back, the compost will absorb it.
I think we, the board, encourage what you're doing. I think there's a budget component to it that would get us into it a little more even. If, you know, you look at what some of the alternatives could be.
So is it like just what happens in these cases is like we do the research and we come and present to you some options?
Yeah, that's what we've done. That's the
Okay.
various committees we have in the town, and that's what we do. The committees, and you're a committee of one,
Okay.
come in and said, well, this is what I think would make the most sense for the town. If it's a couple of neighborhoods, or is it a central site, or we have access to the school? I mean, what are the options you think make sense that'll be used?
Yeah.
Because you're making the point that a lot of families aren't using it. I think the educational part would be interesting. I mean, I don't know how to keep the animals away, and I'd be curious, you know what the latest is and how you keep the animals away from in the school system. I'm just personally not up to snuff.
I was gonna ask that, is there any problem at the school with what you have now in critters or?
No, like some of the squirrels have been bringing sunflowers into the shed, but they're not, we don't have vermin. No, it's all, there's hardware cloth and it's built and designed correctly. Yeah, and we use appropriate recipe so that it doesn't, sometimes it's a little fragrant, but really not bad. I haven't had any.
Is this something that would have to be, if there was gonna be more than just this, to me, it seems like more like a school project sort of thing, and for the school to do its own, is there gonna be an expense to the town to add to this, to increase its volume,
Well,
to allow more households, if this was to happen?
I'm not suggesting building a municipal compost facility, because we have one at Green Mountain Compost. It's just how to get the food scraps there in the most cost-effective way for people who do not want to be participating, either doing home composting or very small scale community. What we have at school is pretty small scale. It's like, 2¼ tons of food a year, and probably we're talking for the whole town like 90 tons. So I'm not suggesting building a facility that would need to be permitted or anything like that. It's really having a hybrid approach of smaller things and then a way to carry the food scraps over to Green Mountain Compost. So it sounds like we will do some research. Okay?
Is Heinsberg, are they going to put the landfill back?
The drop-off center? It's still open-ended. I think
Still is.
everyone wants to do that, but I don't think there's a final decision.
Because if that was to go, then we could bring our food scraps.
Yeah, definitely people do that. And some people from Charlotte probably drive their food scraps into South Burlington or Burlington. Yeah. Yeah. So, anyway, thanks.
State Park Road Trail, Jim and Lori. Folks, hello again. So, go ahead, the
What
floor
would
is
you like
yours.
to know?
Well, tell us,
Dean asked that I come here to sort of meet with you about the trails, and that's all I have in terms of information, so.
well, aren't there two aspects here? One aspect is a discussion with a potential trail and your leadership in the design of getting the trail on State Park Road. Update on that piece, and then I thought there was a component which is to get our support to apply for some kind of a grant. I thought,
And I'll talk about that.
so those are the two components. You might
Right.
want to summarize what you did at the meeting a couple days ago.
Okay, fine, because that's sort of, I'm looking to know what information you wanted, thank you. The Trails Committee is starting work on taking the recommendations from the scoping study that were for State Park Road and fine-tuning them to decide exactly where things will be located along that north side of the road, if they're going to be exactly next to the road, a little bit further away, how much into the easements that we have when we'd be using, looking more specifically at tree removal, because before it was just sort of like a general discussion. So we're basically taking it from a schematic recommendation more towards a design in this step of the work. This project is typically about $15,000 worth of work by someone to assist the town in doing that. As part of my work is doing this sort of thing. And it's been sort of part-time up until about 10 years ago. It was one of many things I did. 10 years ago I started working on my own, and that was basically all I've been doing since then, is bicycle and pedestrian planning and design work throughout New England. As you probably know, I'm a Charlotte resident. I'm our representative to the Regional Planning Commission. I have volunteered to donate my services to assist the Trails Committee in getting as much money as possible for construction to get this installed. I was initially trying to figure out how I could do that as a challenge grant to help them raise more money. I couldn't figure out exactly how to do it, so I'm working on some other schemes to help them with a challenge grant to raise more funds. So for now, I'm basically just donating the services to the town for this. There will be, as part of that, probably a few expenses that might come up. One in particular is that as part of this, we're going to be applying for the wetland permit. We're not quite sure what that's going to be at this point in time, but we're pretty sure we have to, because at the very least, we're going to be inside buffers of wetlands, even if we're not in the wetlands themselves. I have not done a wetland permit for about 10 years. I used to do wetland delineations and do those sort of things, but because I haven't, I've been focusing primarily on bike ped. I would like to have someone that does those things and has been doing them for the last 10 years review the application I put together before we send it in, just to make sure everything's okay. I can't guarantee that that's going to be a donated service, but it'll probably be a few hours of work of that person. I had talked to Dean and recommended the person that I know is Brian Tremback at Lemmer and Dickinson, who does that work, and he said, well, he already assists the town in sewer reviews or something, I think.
Oh, Thompson Point wastewater?
Yeah.
Not Thompson's Point,
The Greenbush?
just general wastewater permits. Yeah.
Okay.
So he's already working with the town, and he does wetland permits. And I would be very happy to have him do a short review of the permit. If not, it could be somebody else that the town would like, but I would like someone to look at that before it's put in, because I just want to make sure everything's okay, since it's been so long since I put one in. and rules change and people change and all that other stuff. We're hoping that the final document that we produce will not be a set of construction drawings, because we're looking to try to build it the same way we did the other sections. It might be a YCC crew or somebody else is working on it to put it in. But there may be a need for some AutoCAD work to do cross sections or things like that. I don't do AutoCAD anymore, I only do GIS work, so there may be a small expense in that way to get this work done. So those are the expense side of things. We've put a schedule together that will give us pretty much a final design as we're going into the wetland permit that will be ready when the next round of grants for trails is due, which Larry will talk about, but the design work should be able to have something that's pretty close to final when they start working on the permit, the grant applications. And I also suggested that we work with a steering committee that has representatives from different organizations within the town. And Lori and Dean put together a steering committee. Lane is, at least for the moment, volunteering. He's going to be your voice on that. His job will be to sort of keep you informed of things as they're going along. We have somebody from the Planning Commission. We have somebody from Conservation Commission. We have a landowner. We have Junior. We're going to have the tree warden on it as well. So the people that will need to be involved in this thing or have some issue are represented as we work along. And the steering committee is basically working to help make all those decisions. We're also doing another public work session series to make sure that the public has input in this. And no matter how much we try to advertise, we're sure that by the end of the thing, we'll have people coming out saying this is horrible and why are you doing this and all those other things. But we're going to try to make this as well publicized as possible. We're looking at having a meeting here, potentially having meetings in East Charlotte for one of them, having places where people can leave comments, putting stuff on the Facebook page. So we're trying to get the word out as much as possible on this. And we will be, right now that we had our first steering committee meeting, and we have updated the existing conditions with sort of locations, specific locations of all the important trees that are along the road, so that we know which particular trees we might be impacting depending on where we put it. We've identified about 3 potential alternatives that we're evaluating. Those are the things we're coming back to the steering committee with, and then we're also going to go to the public with those things so that there's as much input as possible. This alternative will have these impacts, these specific trees will have to go, this is where we'll need stormwater drainage, et cetera, so that people can do a comparison. By the end of it, we're hoping to have an alignment that as many people as possible are happy with. We can't guarantee that everyone will be happy with it, but as many people as possible.
Is this mostly based next to Mount Philo Road?
It is mostly based next to Mount Philo Road. The recommendation.
State Park.
I'm sorry. Yeah, State Park Road.
Yeah.
The recommendation was to put it on the north side of State Park Road, and there was a line there. So we're sort of now focusing more in on where is that line actually located along the north side of State Park Road. We, as a steering committee, looked at the option of putting it right next to the road, and pretty much everyone rejected that, so we're not going to take that forward for a bunch of reasons, from safety concerns to the aesthetics of the people using it and how many people will want to use it if it's right next to the road with no separation whatsoever, to the fact that it'll probably fill in every winter with snow. Junior might not be able to clear it all the time. And there were a lot of discussion on that, and by the end of the meeting, everybody said that one really just doesn't make sense. At the very least, we want like 4 feet of grass or something between the edge of the road. And what does that mean? We've sort of mapped out how wide that shoulder is before it drops off, so we know you're going to need to do a little filling in these areas along here, et cetera, et cetera. So that's sort of the nature of what we're doing. The final recommendation is hopefully coming to you by maybe 1 or 2 meetings after town meeting in March. We looked over a schedule, we set steering committee meetings, we set public work session dates. I have not been able to send out that updated schedule yet, but it should be coming out in the next few days. I will have some notes that are coming out from the meeting as well to keep you informed. Lane suggested that not necessarily the first public work session that's coming up rather soon, but the next two public work sessions, or next three, we might have at 6 o'clock in front of your meetings, like you occasionally have meetings at 6 o'clock. So I have scheduled those with Dean.
We do have.
This printout doesn't have them on there, but I've got the dates, and when I send that new schedule out, those dates will be there.
That's not the public work session for like the November 12th one, 6
No.
p.m.? No,
Actually,
because that was a
no, I think
select board meeting.
that one
We
is,
just switched.
Gonna be the Grange or each lot, or
I'm not sure where.
that's October 8th, I guess.
I thought October.
The October 8th might be there, but a lot of the committee didn't weigh in on it, and I didn't get a good, clear answer
Okay.
of moving it, so I haven't officially moved it yet.
But,
And Lori and I might talk about it tonight.
yeah, but just so you know, the select board's moved their meeting from November 12th to November 13th.
13th, right, and that's what we just talked about, and I had either one of those dates open,
Got it.
depending on when,
So it probably would be
didn't wanna-
6 o'clock.
Right.
6 o'clock on the
depending
13th.
On the 13th,
yeah, on
Right.
the 13th, right.
Yeah. Because you said you were going to decide tonight what you were going to do for that date. So I booked out both dates in my calendar, depending on what you decided. So now that I have that too, I'll be able to update that final schedule. So that's sort of like an overview of what's happening. Questions, comments, concerns?
Really lucky to have your donated support on this. It's great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I think the various options are interesting. I kept in mind what you said to us a long time ago. We don't want to spend $690,000, but at the same time, we'd like to be off the road. And so we had, as Jim said, 3 lines. One was on the road a little further and further. So we got rid of the one on the road, and we're trying to see how far, even if it's, we talked about meandering, I think was the word we used, you know, you brought it up, and have, it's not, doesn't have to be a straight shot to Mount Philo or to Trevor Mack Trail. So we can do some meandering, and the neighbors, right in the corner, what's the road that goes to the north? Vineyard View, the neighbors that have the brand-new home, the fence, they're coming to the meetings. They have an interest, they don't want their brand-new property, you know, messed up at all. And then we have the wetland, which is, we had a walk out there a year ago, and it just drops off. So there's a lot to think about. Maybe that will come closer to the road, but if we can get off the road in other areas where the right-of-ways have been approved. Yeah, like Clark had a variable one, yeah, it was really
And
cool.
that also can help to not impact trees. If, again, we're meandering in there, and that's an important tree, you can say, well, just meander right around that tree.
And
Right.
using
So that's-
switchbacks to reduce the amount of fill needed
Right,
Right.
although it's pretty level until you get to the wetland.
to the.
Yeah.
You kind of
culvert.
level this, and then it gets to the wetlands, and it drops pretty quickly, and then it's the wetland. And if we're trying to avoid that, we may end up going to the road and coming back, because going through there with the boardwalk will add a lot of expense. And we're looking at that so we can say what that expense will be. It might end up that you go to the road short-term and long-term. You've got that in mind, that someday we hope to do that, but we're not going to do it right away or whatever.
Junior actually said a year or so ago or two, you could make that where that drop-off is, move the road to the south, just a couple of feet, you know, it could make a difference of, move State Park Road for
Right.
a little bit to the south, and then that opens up some spaces. There's some option versus these expensive, complex bridges or walkways, and then you start getting into big money.
And there's actually about 8 to 10 feet of level shoulder along that portion of the road for most of that stretch where the wetland is.
Well,
There's
that-
only one
that-
spot.
I think the culvert goes out quite a ways.
It does.
So
It
I
does.
think it would allow for some kind of stabilization put in to try to keep it away from State Park Road a little.
Right. Although the less we do there, the better, because we're going to need a permit no matter what we do there. And if we can leave the slope untouched and just work on the top level area, the permit will be easier to get.
Right.
As soon as we start doing anything down that side, that's when A&R starts to look at it much more closely.
I think the other thing that we learned with the last grant application was that the applications are for this, really the select board submission, as far as, that was a little confusing in the beginning of that grant application process, but I think
We have to apply.
the lion's share of the work by far is being done by the Trails Committee, but the official applicants are the select board, when it comes time to submit the application.
Now, it's discussion, who approves this design,
And who's
I said
applying.
kind of the same thing. A lot of feedback, but ultimately, is it planning, is it zoning? Doesn't seem to be. It seems like it is the select board. And then we sign the bottom line on the grant,
To apply to the
To
state.
apply for.
to a grant. And I think there's some,
Or for the wetlands permit, those permits all have to be.
I'll go with, they're all
It's
from
By-
the
town.
town
by
of
the
Charlotte.
town.
Exactly.
Which is the select board really that
Yes.
determines that, right. Right.
so we appreciate your organizing.
What do you do about that utility pole, Jim? That's there on the north side, near that new house.
We've got various options. We don't know yet what we're doing because we're still looking at the alternatives. But I think most of them are leaving the utility pole between the path and the road. And especially on the, I always have to think of my directions, the east side of Vineyard View, there are, as you begin to go down the hill into the wetland. And I think there's one pole right there in the corner on the east side. I can't remember, but I think it's on the east side.
Closer to Route 7.
Well, there's like 3 or 4 of them along there.
Okay.
And I can't remember exactly where they all are. But most of the valuable trees are right along the edge of the road, because my guess is that it used to be pasture or open behind it, and all of the trees back there are either invasive or very small, or very, very tight together, so that they're all very thin little poles. And there's not a lot of really valuable trees back in that area. There's
So
a
you're
few
hoping
pines.
most of the trees and the poles will be within this green belt that you're gonna leave.
In the front, which is why we're thinking if you can go behind that creates a really good barrier. And for most of the way, you've got the easement that's wide enough that you can actually do that. And then you're saving all those good trees along that area. And it screens and it provides a good separation between the trail and the road, but you're still within all the easement areas that you have. So that's like when Lane said the second option that's further in, that's what it's doing, is it's staying back in that area.
Look forward to seeing the options.
And it might even be nice along, like, closer to Mount Philo, where it's just the field, eventually to put trees along the road, between the road and the path, so that you get even more, tree and shade and all of that as you go along. Be nice, I think. Could look really nice. Yeah.
So, your turn?
My turn? Okay. So, yeah, that brings us to the funding of the trail. And I did just get an update today from Mary, and we have about $67,000 in the trails account, not our annual budget, but in the trails account. And last year, Junior did an estimate, and I think we had one other estimate that was about $100,000 to do the trail on State Park Road. So that would mean that we'd need somewhere around $30,000 to $40,000 to complete the trail. So the only other option for funding, grant funding, really, of any significance, there are some small grants that you can get for $1,000 here and $1,000 there, but other than VTrans, which I think everybody heard loud and clear is not an option that this town wants to do, there is the Vermont Forest Parks and Recreation Grant.
And that is the grant that we've received 2 other times to do the separate parts of co-housing. And that was how we finished the co-housing section of the trail through Forest Parks and Rec grants. At the time, they were only giving out $20,000 as the maximum. Now they are going up to $50,000 as an option. So, you know, depending, I guess I would like to, you know, see what you guys think, but I would like to go for the 50,000. That might give us an opportunity to say, we'd like to plant some trees and, you know, add some of those other things in there that I think would be nice.
What's the share? What's the town share?
20%. 20% share, yep.
Which we can more than meet. We can meet 100% share, in essence. You know, which puts us in good standing.
Right, yeah. I just, this is not all the information from their website, but I thought you guys would like to just have this to see what it says for the grant. So, so the deadlines, I think, are the biggest thing for us coming up. So November 15th is a pre-application deadline. So that would require the first signature by you all as the select board to support this. That's why it's good to talk about it now. The actual grant would be due January 1st. And then you can see when they don't make a decision until the end of March.
If the design isn't going to be done until March, can you apply for the grant without having a design?
You can, and you can also apply for the grant without the permits as long as you are getting permits and in the process of getting permits.
But how do you define what we want the grant for?
The design will be what I'm calling pre-final, because we get to the end, this is what we want to do, and then we submit our permit applications. Things might change depending on what A&R says in terms of the wetlands. But we will know by January 1st, and even by November 15th, we'll have a clear idea of where we want to go and what it is going to be, because we're hoping to submit the wetland applications by the end of November. So the design has to be done then. I can't guarantee that we will get comments back and everything back by January 1st. But we'll be close enough that we have a good idea of what we're requesting when the grant goes in. And we'll have a draft budget put together and all those other things that can go along with the grant.
This is like in the project preparedness section of the grant, need to be ready to start the project by July 1st, 2019.
Yeah.
So the wetland permit process wouldn't take that long.
No, it shouldn't.
No.
I'm looking at about 3 months potentially.
Now, the thing that really got us all cranked up on the V-Trans is to build it to their standards, you know.
Right.
4 foot of stone, piling,
Right.
whatever.
Well aware of those standards.
So what about the standards, what about the standards here, if we're successful? I mean, can we build a trail like that's in co-housing, or?
Those were the same standards.
Right, those are the standards that we built to.
Yes. So what we built there was an 8-foot wide trail. And I can't remember how deep it is. I'd have to go back and look at the specs that we put in before, but it's certainly not V-Trans specs.
You don't have any problem with wild parsnip on the co-housing?
There
fields?
is. They have to mow the shoulders to keep the parsnip out of the trail.
I heard that there was a lot of wild parsnip.
Near the
over on
ball fields?
Plouffe Lane trails.
Oh, I haven't been back there in all of it. Really?
Yes, I heard it was awful.
Unfortunately, sometimes the mowers spread the parsnip seeds. I mean,
It didn't.
Okay.
It did. I mean, years ago it might have, but
Right.
Huh,
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, you should really, I didn't want to go over there and check it, but it should be looked at.
Have to go
I've
look
heard.
at it.
It's really,
Huh.
the field, like the big field where you
Yeah.
end up, once you come out of the woods.
That's surprising, because we don't have any on our land, and our land kind of abuts that Plouffe Lane Trails area. We've never had any person, so that's surprising. Huh.
So are you looking for our support for the pre-application?
Yes, although you haven't seen it yet, so I think
Okay.
it's a little premature, but I just wanted to let
November
you.
15th, so we want it done the 1st of November kind of thing.
Yes, so I guess I would say your next, maybe not the next meeting, but one of the next few, maybe the end of October.
Do 2 a month, so right, for the
Yeah, so
second one in October.
Right,
So then that would be what, a draft pre-application of what our intent is?
yes, so you all would be able to see, it's pretty basic, but it basically asks you, what are you doing? What's the trail? How are you building it? All of that, like,
To their format that they're
Right.
requesting.
so you would be able to see that, and we could submit that ahead of time, so you could look it over before that meeting.
Sue, have a comment?
As I recall, when all the state park people and wetlands people, et cetera, got together to look at that trail, the state park people had a lot of question about parking. Does that have to be addressed?
In what way? I
Well,
can't remember.
because they're already overflowing with parking, and it's very possible that a lot of people would like to park there and then take the trail to the beach or whatever. Probably people will arrive in cars to walk it or bike it. So does that have to be addressed, or?
Be parking on Untitled State Park.
Yeah.
Right.
One of the things that I will be presenting in terms of the alternatives that we didn't talk about at our meeting is potential for a few parking places either on Mount Fowler Road or on State Park Road up near the corner. What can we do within the right-of-way that might provide an additional 3-4 parking spaces so that they wouldn't necessarily be up using the state park parking lot. Not that it'll be a lot, but we want to at least look at the potential to see what might be possible, what the town might want to do. And we're looking at that because we had that concern from them. In the end, we don't know what we can do yet, but at least we're going to be exploring some options.
The other one is Sam Coppola owns that vineyard that the Melissa and Trevor Mack Trail goes through.
Yeah.
And we haven't approached him either, but that might be another option, is right on State Park Road, or maybe right in a little bit, that he might be willing to offer a few spots. The Inn at Charlotte, we'd like to pursue that as
Kind of
well.
spread the parking out.
Right, yeah. At co-housing, right.
Yeah, we're trying to do it at both ends, if possible.
They're gonna come to you. Parking is something that we have talked about.
Along the way would be good at various different locations.
So that north, the corner there, by Mount Philo Road, isn't there a big horse farm going in? The
There is-
corner
I'm
of
talking about
State
within the
Park
right of
and-
way.
I realize
Yes.
that, so how much is the right of way?
The right-of-way is, I don't have the number in my head, but I've got the information, and it's all also in the scoping report. And we also potentially are getting a 20-foot easement, but I don't know what's allowed in that easement yet, so I'm assuming that's not available. And I'm only looking at what can be done within the right-of-way that the town already has.
If you're gonna put parking there, or there should be a cooperative with the new landowners. They've set their design and got their barns and their parking and their right-of-ways and their thoughts and,
Based on septic being in the town right away?
There's a possibility they may withdraw the appeal.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Possibility what?
That they may withdraw the appeal.
Right. That's what I had heard
But I mean,
today
they might
from
have
Peter.
plantings, you're talking about putting plantings in the right of way.
In the
there.
town right away, well, potentially in the town
So,
right
you know,
away.
like,
Yeah.
seems like they should have a choice of what they want to look
Actually
at
happen.
Right,
on the,
right,
you know, looking south, I guess. whatever.
right. Yeah. I think anything, you would want to include them in that
Definitely.
process, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
So this plan looks good. Any more you want to say about the,
Just that, yeah, we'll come back with a lot more detail, but just to kind of give you a heads up about the pre-application and the application and the process. And then the only other thing for people who didn't come to the underpass celebration, that one of the other things, and I know we talked about this last year, that our funding from the town was going toward a trails map for all our trails. So,
Where's one, pick up one of these maps?
right here.
Town hall?
Right here in Town Hall, I'm gonna put them around.
they're
to-
semi-waterproof, right?
Yes, these are on this waterproof paper, so even if you were out and it was raining, you would still see your map. And there's a cool little, this icon on the back, if you put your, for those of you who are computer savvy or phone savvy, if you put your phone on taking a picture and you go over that bar comes up. If you press on it, it will take you to the town website and all the information about all our trails. So, special thanks to Jeremy and Lisa for, of Barnes and Brault for donating their time to make this. We have lots of wonderful people in Charlotte who are donating their time to help out, and we certainly appreciate it.
Well, thank you. You guys are doing a lot of work. Appreciate, Jim, you coordinating all of us for the next 6 or 9 months, I guess.
You're welcome. I look
And
forward to
Lori,
it.
great with all your, how many years now? Did you say 10?
10.
Well, yeah, my own company is 10, but it's about 20.
And the
And it wasn't
celebration,
full-time, it was like half my time was on bike bed stuff.
and the tunnel celebration was fabulous. I just, all the little kids with the bicycles and stuff, you know, that was cool.
That was the best. All the people who came on their bicycles, all the families, yeah, that was really, really fun and great to see the people using it. So,
Great.
that was good.
Thanks.
Thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you.
Tractor parade.
So this is also using the town insurance, Dean? You have that letter? Or from last year?
Your request, or the, I mean, I think once the select board approves it, then it's considered a town event.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to make a motion?
I don't think, can I?
I don't think,
Sure.
well, I guess the appointments to the board is needed. The,
Which board?
the tractor parade committee. And then authorization of the road closures.
This is an annual board appointment?
Yep.
Are there any new board members for consideration?
No.
I-
Must be if we've had a meeting. We haven't. We've had a couple by our, you know, here and there, but not as a group. It's kind of neat.
I guess we need a motion to approve the board members of the tractor parade.
I'll make a motion to approve Carrie Spear, Debbie Christie, Cindy Bradley, June Bean, Dave Denton, Margaret Roddy, and Heather Manning to the Tractor Parade Committee.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Make a motion to approve the road closures on October 14th, 2018, between 1 and 2 p.m. of the following roads: Spear Street between Carpenter Road and Prindle Road, Heinsberg Road between Dorset Street and Guinea Road. Traffic will be diverted to detour routes via Carpenter Road, Prindle Road, Dorset Street, and Guinea Road.
I second that.
Any comments, questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye?
Aye. Is there a motion for a town event, right?
What's that?
You need a motion for a town event?
We have in the past to
Yeah.
put it under
Make a motion
the
to,
insurance umbrella.
to designate the tractor parade as a town event
To be held.
to be held this year on October 14th.
Second?
Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any select board updates? Oh, did you want to, the RFP for the counter?
Right. I did distribute it, but I also wanted to give the select board an opportunity to, if there's something that you don't like or should be changed.
So this is accordance with our purchasing policy. Bid opening October 8th. And there's a couple, you have a bid sheet on page 2. The Livingstone countertops, laminate, sinks, faucets.
I would, first comment I see is under bid project specifications, I want to say contractors are encouraged to take their own measurements. Make sure they're required to provide, do whatever they need to provide proper fit and finish. That they're not encouraged, they're required
I was kind of wondering about.
to take their own measurements.
Yeah.
Make that a requirement? Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
or responsible for
okay.
fit and finish, however you want to say that.
Where would that be located in the RFP?
Bid specifications,
Down here.
bottom
Okay.
paragraph.
Oh, yeah, contractors responsible for their own, would you say measurements and form fit?
Fit and finish, all their own field measurements for proper fit and finish, so if it doesn't fit, they can't blame us.
Would that also be in a contract, or we could just include that in the contract?
Yeah, I'd put it in the spec too, just so they know they have to field measure. Most reasonable contractors will do it anyway.
Right.
So this Monday, October 8th is a select board meeting? Or not?
2 weeks.
What is the laminate color?
What's that?
It says color of countertop, the desert. Livingstone color.
So that color is what Livingstone uses. If they were to do something in laminate, it would be
Also a beige, kind of.
similar, yeah, it would need to be similar.
Under the
I-
sinks, I look for a gauge. I don't know off the top of my head the proper numbers, but stainless steel sinks are cheap, thin, and thinner kind of thing, so they should, they're not all the same.
No.
I called someone like Webb would tell you what an appropriate gauge for a sink is. I don't know. The
Commercial grade sink.
commercial grade, 12 gauge, I don't know what there's numbers, so, but their prices vary wildly. The faucets are spec, so if you're replacing the sinks,
Do you want us to approve this or just back to?
The purchasing policy does say you're supposed to approve it.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve the RFP for replacing and upgrading kitchen countertops
As so amended.
at the Charlotte Senior Center dated September 19th as amended.
Second it.
Okay, any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye?
Aye. Any other updates? Fire department did a nice job with the helicopter landing and the car wrecking and extraction and fires and lots of little kids there and hot dogs, or hamburgers, not hot dogs. So it was very nice, beautiful day,
Good.
well attended.
I'm glad it went well.
Yeah, you weren't there?
No.
Everyone else was, so it was good.
I wasn't able to go this year, but I very much enjoyed it last year. I'm sorry I couldn't this year. but-
Helicopter was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Any other updates? We have minutes of September 10th. Is there a motion to?
Motion to approve the minutes as September 10th as may be amended.
Okay. I have a few.
I'll second that.
Okay. On line 47, it's just a section 704. I think it's just a typo, first sentence. On line 54, we have to say legal expenses of $9,300. Reduced to 1/4 as was voted on. So it's, but it doesn't define that. It's the legal expenses that we applied 25% to the Lane's Lane part that our ordinance refers to.
So instead of one-time costs, just legal expenses?
Yeah, that 1/4 of 9,300, I'd put under that parentheses, the legal expense, the applicable legal expense. Oh, yeah, just one, let me see. On line 197, agrees to the concept of 200 feet. Certainly doesn't mean anything to me. I mean, to be more clear, this is line 197. The select board agrees to the concept of 200 feet. Is it frontage or is it barrier? What is the 200 feet?
I think it's actually 100
It
feet.
should be 100 feet.
And what is it?
100-foot wide easement.
The width of the wildlife corridor.
No, the width of the wildlife corridor.
That's right.
100-foot width of wildlife corridor.
Yes. Did you guys approve that earlier today?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
No issues. Those are the things I found. People ready to vote? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We have warrants here. And is there any other business to bring forward to the select board?
Motion to adjourn.
Right on time. Second.
All in favor? Okay.
Time after.
Look at that.
How are we doing?
Out in a minute.